Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 9th Advisory Committee for Redistricting meeting. This is our first weaning meeting. We're looking very forward to it. Thank you for coming. We'd like to start the evening, of course, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me, the flag is on the wall. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Welcome to the meeting. I will call roll. Mr. Perez, I'm here. Co-Chair Evans.
Present.
Gary Jones. Present. Ruth Ann Connor King. Here. Zach Hoover.
Here.
Mayor Kilsheimer. Jason. Mark Arias. Here. Tom Callan. No Tom yet. Okay. Jimmy Affont. Julio Roca.
Presente.
Wes Hodge. Kelly. Simrod? No, not here yet. Okay. Virginia Whittington.
Present.
Commissioner Hardage. Great. We have quorum. That is wonderful. We will now go ahead and move into public comment. I am thrilled to say we have a lot of it tonight, so this will be fun. I'm sorry? Yes, thank you. And my co-chair has reminded me that before we do that, I should acknowledge the commissioners that are here. I see Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Uribe. Is there anyone else here? I think I saw the mayor of Eatonville there in the back. Yep. Thank you for being here. Commissioners, would either of you like to address the group? Okay. Mr. Mayor, would you like to address the group?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
First, I just want to say to this board, chairman and the board, thank you so much. I know as a politician or someone that sits like you do, I know sometimes people just think it's nothing happening, but I know deep within all of your hearts, you probably want the best for all of us. So again, thank you for taking that opportunity to be on this board. Thank you. I just want to say that. It's been funny because I have so many people asking, what do we want to do in Eatonville? It was funny that they used one part as saying, hey, if you were in 2 and 5, it's like having 2 sharks, like the Shark Tank. it was just kind of funny hearing that. But as we spoke to a lot of the people in our community, I think they're grateful for all the things that people want to do, but they felt comfortable in District 2. They felt that when they looked at the whole picture of some of the growing pains and the things within our community that somebody could relate to, it would probably be better in District 2. When I'm hearing that, I have to respect the wishes of our community, and I'm okay with that. I appreciate all the different ones that people would love to see Eatonville in, but I would humbly request that y'all really consider that we remain in District 2. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming out. We're going to start public comment. I will read the name of the first person, which will be Timothy Ayers, and following him will be Sonia Stevenson, if you want to get ready. Mr. Ayers, you've got 3 minutes. Give us your name and address, and the clock will start.
Let me first of all address all of you by saying, Madam and Mr. Chairman, advisory members for the Committee on Redistricting for the county. My name is Timothy Ayers for the record. I'm a resident of Ocoee. My address is 1291 Plumgrass Circle in Ocoee. I'm here speaking on behalf of a group of friends who have followed your deliberation, your earnest deliberation about these issues that come up every 10 years. And they authorized me to speak on their behalf. We've done it virtually, followed you, and in person at times to speak on their behalf and in support of Redistricting Plan Proposal 16A, which has been submitted by a member of your committee. With every option that's before this body, there are some other plans that are favorable as well, but that's the plan we thought was most appropriate. The one issue that we found with some of the other plans in terms of the legal consideration, maintaining communities of interest, our greatest fear with many of the plans is that it will permit, unintentionally so, the packing, particularly by race, a number of African American voters in one district under the guise of maintaining communities of interest. So we just ask the committee to keep that in mind as you continue your deliberation. I appreciate the time, and I yield back whatever time remains.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. Sonia Stevenson, and following her will be Patricia Rumpf. Welcome home, by the way. I'm sorry? You're good? Okay. Patricia Rumpf. Followed by James Callahan. Jim.
Good evening, everybody. And thanks for having me here tonight. I'm glad to be back. I've been following you all since you started. Missed a couple of meetings, but I want you to know that I've been following online if I haven't been in person. And I spoke with a couple of my Pine Hills Community Council board members tonight, and we have reviewed several of the maps. First of all, we want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to us in Pine Hills and understanding our position of not wanting our votes to be diluted in District 2. So thank you so much for listening to us. And after we reviewed several of these maps, we came to the conclusion that map, the few people that I spoke with tonight as far as the board concerned, map 17A, 13A, and map 12A best fit Pine Hills, whereas District 6 remains 64% of the African American voting population, and District 2 remained 34% of the African American voting population. 16A was not bad, but I had a question about 16A, where the new boundary lines for between 2 and 6 are drawn. Normally, Silver Star was the predominant boundary line for District 2 and 6, but there is a shift from Silver Star going north, and I would like to know where that new boundary line going east and west, where that District 2 and 6. Again, thank you very much for this time. I know it's been a long process, but again, keep Pine Hills in mind. Thank you very much for listening to us, and we're listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome home. Next up is Jim Callahan, followed by Eddie Cole. Sorry? Who?
Good evening, Co-Chair.
Oh, Mayor Cole. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Can we start the clock back at 3 minutes? And let me just, Jim, you've got.
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Who do you want to go ahead?
You.
Okay.
You got 3 minutes. Give us your name and address.
Okay. My name is Jim Callahan. I live at 204 East South Street, Unit 3052 in downtown Orlando. First, I'd like to agree with Co-Chair Evans that Orlando Health, or as she referred to it, ORMC, belongs in District 6. This is not incompatible with my suggestion that Pulse Nightclub belongs in District 3 because Orlando Health and Pulse Nightclub are separated by Cayley Street. They're both on Orange Avenue, but the blocks they're on are separated by Cayley Street. This will create a zigzag in the line, but a necessary one. The Commissioner of District 6 should have oversight of Orlando Health, not only for historical reasons, but because of ongoing healthcare disparities, such as maternal death rates. If you Google that, I think you'll find a rather chilling story. The Commissioner for District 3 should have Pulse Nightclub so that they are on the guest list whenever VIPs are visiting the site, because the District 3 Commissioner represents a lot of gay and Latino voters. And the Pulse Massacre took place on Latin night at a gay nightclub. I would still like to move the northern boundary of District 3 downtown at least to SR 50 Colonial Drive, although a more appropriate boundary would be Lock Haven Park and Lou Gardens. I must disagree with my party chair, Mr. Hodge. District 5 is the Winter Park, Maitland, University of Central Florida district. that happens to fill out its population numbers by extending into parts of Orlando, but I would not consider Orlando to be the core of the district. And in the interest of time, I think I'll omit the rest of my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Ms. Cynthia Harris, to be followed by Valerie Ellington. Ms. Harris, you've got 3 minutes. Give us your name and address.
Cynthia Harris, 12 Channing Avenue, Orlando. We've come a long way when it comes to this redistricting process, and I thank each and every one of you for your efforts. Tonight I want to reiterate about the public housing that is scheduled to be demolition in District 6, which also encompasses District 5 in the city of Orlando. Permits have not been withdrawn, so therefore these things are still in process. We can't afford another 10 years of losing population in our district. So with that being said, I want you to consider, I know you're not supposed to consider anything but the numbers that you have presented before you, but also keep in mind that we are losing people in our district every day, not through any fault of their own, but also it also is a cause and effect because it creates homelessness. We already have that through this pandemic, and now we're going to suffer more because of the pandemic and because of the permits that have been allocated to HUD to lose thousands of families in these public housing units. The maps that I like for you to consider is 12A, 17A, and 13A, and honorable mention 1A and 10. The maps that I do not like is 11, 16A, and 6A. Pine Hills, as they've stated before, they do not want to move into District 6, but that remaining portion of Pine Hills has never objected to not remaining where they are. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're looking at the maps, that the boundary lines for District 6 and District 2, where Pine Hills is concerned, we'd like to see that remain the same. I thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak to you each and every week, and I'd like to thank you for your consideration as you continue to decide on your maps. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Next up is Valerie Ellington, to be followed by Sandra Fatmi Hall, I believe, and I apologize if I messed that name up. Ms. Ellington, you've got 3 minutes. Please give us your name and address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Valerie Ellington, and I reside at 6386 Livewood Oaks Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32818. I thank you very much to the board for the good work that you have been doing. But I would like to encourage you to leave Pine Hills the way it is. Thank you very much. That's it, I'm finished.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Next up, Sandra Fatmi Hall. Again, I apologize if I messed it up. And following her will be, can't read the first name, Billings is the last name. You've got 3 minutes. Please give us your name, and then I'll know how to pronounce it next time. And
Oh,
address.
you're fine. Thank you so much. A pleasant good evening to everyone, to the chair, co-chairs, and the entire board. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Sandra Fatmi Hall, and I am here this evening to just thank you, first of all, for your work. I know it's been a lot of work. I've also been following you since September. And I really want to reiterate, which I'm sure you'll hear a lot of this evening, that, you know, as someone that's worked in this community for over 11 years, that's the Pine Hills community, and has given back so much to this community with a village, I am here tonight to just encourage you to please leave the lines in Pine Hills as they are for the benefit of our community, for the benefit of those that have done so much work, and for continuity. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next, and again, I apologize, it looks like Mr. Billings. You've got 3 minutes. Just give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Paul Billings, president of 98.5 The Wire, located on Silver Star Road, 6003 Silver Star Road, Suite 1. First, I want to say thanks to this committee. I don't take lightly the opportunity to speak and be a part of democracy. Not every country gets this opportunity. After seeing some of the proposal and maps that's been proposed and some of the maps that is getting a lot of traction, I warn you to please let's not become like South Africa with apartheid. Some of these maps that I've seen, it's going to restrict some of the voices. We are a diverse country. We are a diverse community. We are diverse people. And that map should represent diversity. It's not good to have one thought, one political party into one group. So please leave Pine Hills alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. And I apologize I didn't give you a heads up, Mr. Hall, but Dennis Hall, you are up. And following Mr. Hall will be Evangeline Richardson.
Good evening. I guess I made it up here. Though I had some surgical procedures on my legs, but it's that important that I try to make it here this evening.
Mr. Hall, I need you to state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Dennis Hall. My address is 7267 Hiawassee Oak Drive, and I live in Pine Hills. First, I've been to several of the meetings, and I must commend this board, this committee, and I do know that there are several things you could have been doing with your families, your spouses, your friends, your neighbors, than to come here all these weeks, so many weeks. But on the other hand, I don't think you intended to come here to inflict hurt on anyone, to cause hurt in any neighborhood. I don't think you came here all the time that you've been spending so many weeks, to inflict hurt in districts, certain areas. Well, I'm here to say there's a song that says, starting all over again is going to be rough. I want you to take that song to heart tonight. There's another saying that if it's not broken, don't fix it. These may be little rhymes, but I'm asking you gentlemen to take it to heart. We have worked, myself, not only in the Pine Hills area, but in the adjoining neighborhoods in and around Pine Hills. And we have built up a certain programs that we're still working on to perfect. And we need the opportunity to finish what we have started. And having said this, I'm asking that with all your good intention, we ask you to leave Pine Hills, the boundary of Pine Hills. I would appreciate it very much if you would let it remain the way it is, so we can accomplish our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Evangeline Richardson, and following Ms. Richardson will be Todd Catella. Ms. Richardson, you've got 3 minutes. If you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Evangeline Richardson. My address is 6407 Law Street Court, Orlando. Tuesday was my first time to a meeting, and it was very interesting, and it lasted a long time. However, as I listened, I realized that you all as a board has a lot on your plate. But I went home, and I looked at the maps as of the day, and I looked at them on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and the maps that really will help Pine Hills as a whole is map 13A, 17A, and 12A. So I asked the board, as they do their deliberations, that you would keep that in mind, keeping Pine Hills with the same borders as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Todd Catella, and that is my last public comment card. If you wish to speak and address us, please fill out a card, and we'll wait for you to do so if you want to have your say tonight. Mr. Catella, you've got 3 minutes if you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Todd Catella, 162 Mercado, Orlando, 32807, 408-436 intersection, basically. Okay, looking at the Orange County Commission population percentage deviation district map, which is in your legal maps there. Basically, you have the history of where Orange County ended up in 2020 census compared to where it was after the redistricting in 2011. And what we see in that is District 1 grew 12.73% to 268,658 people. District 4 grew by 9.5% with 2,655 people. District 3 minus 5.8%. District 6 minus 8.86%. District 2 minus 7.33%. District 5 minus 0.25% from the baseline of 238,318. Now, if there was, right now there are approved planned development zones that are going to be on the books with people in them in 2 years, 2.5 years. There's been another development in Metro West for another 1,500 or so, I understand. That's probably 2.5 to 3.5 years. Now, if we're planning a 10-year map, we need to do a better job in considering what is already on the books with the planned development. This isn't hope something's going to grow. This is already approved development that is going through the process to be built right now. Now, this is what this means. In District 1, if you're going to have a baseline, adding the 8,465 residents or units, which could, if it's a 1.5, if you have 2 people in a house and they both register to vote, and maybe some are all filled, some are not, so even if it's a 1.5, you could be talking about 10,000 people. So if you're at 268,658 now, and you're adding 8,465 approved, or 10,000 possibly, that's going to make a major difference in what you're looking at as a baseline. What I really think you should do is consider primarily in District 1 and District 4 the 4,865 residents or units that are being built, approved already in District 1. Not only is it high, but it needs to come down as well as District 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Catella. Is there anyone else wishing to address us? If so, please let us know. We'll wait for you to fill out a public comment card. Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comments portion of this meeting and move on to approval of the minutes. In your package, you've got the redistricting minutes from our December 6th meeting just the other day. I hope you've had a chance to review them. Is there a motion to approve or amend them?
So move, Whittington.
We've got a motion from Mr. Affont to approve them. I didn't hear who the second was.
Second,
Is
Whittington.
that Virginia? I think that was Ms. Whittington who seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of our December 6th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We've got a couple things we want to hit on briefly before we move into our winnowing process. Number one, when we accepted map 1A from Mr. Alfont at our first meeting where we accepted maps, we weren't doing the same legal analysis the same way. So in order of consistency, we've asked council to share with us a legal analysis of redistricting plan 1A that is long overdue, but we're going to get that and make sure it's in the record. And number two, at a couple of meetings ago, there was a lot of interest on the impact of the jail population on District 6. Council gave us a great memo, put it up on the website, but I'm not sure that everybody on Orange TV land and everywhere else is watching the website for constant updates and legal memos. And if you are, okay. But that said, I've asked council to give us just a few minutes on that as well, so we'll have that in the record of our live public meeting. Madam Council?
Good evening. As our co-chair said, council did send a memo to the committee on November 19th, 2021 regarding county-level prison redistricting, and that memo is available on the committee's website along with all other memos that legal has submitted to the committee. To summarize, prison gerrymandering is a practice of counting significant populations of non-resident and non-voting state prisoners as residents of the electoral districts in which their prison cells are located when drawing boundaries. Typically, prison gerrymandering becomes an issue in rural regions of the country where the prison population is a relatively significant portion of such regions' total population, and there are no other large pockets of non-residents or non-voters, such as military personnel or non-citizen residents, serving to counterbalance that prison population. In Calvin v. Jefferson County Board of Commissioners, a case decided in 2016 by the U.S. District Court for Northern Florida, the county in question, Jefferson County, Florida, had a total population of 14,761 people. That made the population of its state prison population, which was 1,157 people, as reported by the census, represent 7.84% of Jefferson County's total population. In comparison, Orange County has a total population of over 1.4 million people, and the total state population, a state prison population of 2,563 people, as reported by the census, which represents 0.17% of Orange County's total population. It's important to note that the district court in Calvin specifically set aside the state prison population, distinguishing it as a different type of group for reasons that are further clarified in the memo. However, and therefore it did not consider the Jefferson County jail population. However, setting that aside, if you were to add the 2,122 population of the Orange County jail reported by the census, which would create the total adult correctional population of Orange County as reported by the census at 4,685 people, that would represent 0.33% of Orange County's total population. The court in Calvin clearly noted several times in its decision to rule that the inclusion of the prison population in Jefferson County was unconstitutional, was problematic because, was specifically because the size of the prison population in Jefferson County relative to the small population size of Jefferson County was such that counting the prisoners made a substantial difference, which would not be the case in counties with larger populations, such as Orange County, which currently has a little over 1.4 million more people than Jefferson County had at the time in the Calvin case. to show the impact of the prison population in Jefferson County. The court in Calvin observed that when the state prison population in Jefferson County was removed from the district in which it was drawn, the maximum deviation of Jefferson County's redistricting scheme increased from 8.67% to 42.63%, which was a total increase of 33.96%. In comparison, removing the total adult correctional population of Orange County, inclusive of the populations of the state prison system and the county jail, only leads to a 1% increase in the maximum deviation of the county's current districts, while removal of just the state prison population, as was done in the Calvin case, leads to an increase in the maximum deviation of only 0.07%. There was additional discussion by the court in Calvin regarding the specific nature of state prison populations and whether state prisoners could be considered true constituents of the county representatives, county-level representatives. The court decided in Calvin that state prisoners could not be considered true constituents, which is one of the reasons why they could be removed. This had mostly to do with the court's observation that county-level representatives cannot directly or indirectly regulate the lives of state prisoners in any meaningful way because they are preempted by state law, or the impact of the policies that they pass would not have no meaningful impact on the lives of state prisoners. This is clearly different to a population in a jail that is managed and staffed at the county level, which again, the district court in Calvin did not contemplate. Ultimately, the district court found the redistricting scheme in Jefferson County to be unconstitutional for three key factors. The fact that it dealt with prisoners who are separated from the rest of society and mostly unable to participate in civic life. More importantly, according to the court, that it dealt with state prisoners and a county government, and it is the interplay of the limited powers of the county government over the lives of the state prisoners that made it so that state prisoners lack a meaningful representational nexus with county government, and the size of the prison population relative to the size of the districts in Jefferson County was such that counting the prisoners made a substantial difference, which would not be the case in counties of larger populations. In sum, there is no argument that the county-level prison redistricting can certainly be impactful in smaller counties where a prison population is a relatively significant portion of the county's total population as reported by the census. However, as that is not the case in Orange County, prison gerrymandering should not be considered a significant redistricting concern in Orange County.
Thank you, Madam Counsel. Let's go ahead with the legal analysis then of proposal 1A.
Just
yeah.
one question.
Commissioner, sorry.
Just one question of staff. When the census is taken, what address is counted for persons that are in the Orange County Jail? The jail location or their residence address?
It is the jail location.
I'm sorry, are there other questions for counsel? I know we all saw the memo. I just wanted to make sure we were on the record with it. Okay, would you go ahead and proceed then with your legal analysis for redistricting plan 1A that was submitted by Mr. Alfont, and then we'll be talking about it later in a few moments, in fact. So, please.
This binder has gotten quite large. Committee Proposal 1 meets the minimum legal threshold for consideration by the county, by the committee. It has a 0.88% maximum deviation, which is below the 10% threshold for the one person, one vote equal population threshold. It has a relative mean deviation of 0.19%. It also meets the state and local contiguity requirements. It creates new multi-district population divisions in Alafaya, Lake Butler, and Union Park. From Alafaya, it adds a third split in District 5, making the split from District 3 to District 4 and 5. In Lake Butler, it splits from District 1 to District 1 and 2. In Union Park, it splits from District 4 and 5 to Districts 3, 4, and 5. It fully moves Gotha into a new district from District 1 to District 2. Population is fully consolidated into one district. Ocoee is consolidated from District 1 and 2 fully into District 2. In terms of populations that are lower than 5% or greater than 90% in one district, that includes a part of the city of Orlando, which is not abnormal. Union Park creates a 4.23% population in District 3, and then in Winter Park, there is the remaining 1.74% in District 2. Other population adjustments include Fairview Shores and Pine Hills. The committee may want to consider, if this map moves forward and during its conversation, looking at Committee Proposal 1A, Attachment 1, which shows where the 4.2% of Union Park's population is in District 3. And then also the map does not correct for pre-existing splits in Alafaya, Belle Isle, and Winter Park. There are some other attachments for zero population blocks, as well as Committee Attachment 8, which proposes moving 75 population census block located in Alafaya into District 5 from District 4, therefore making South Avalon Park Boulevard the dividing line between the two districts in that area. And that's the end of the legal analysis.
Thank you. And again, that was simply for the record because we weren't doing those the first week. So now we have complete analysis of those maps. So we're going to move into the rest of the agenda at this point. The discussion agenda, as you see, has got Proposal 13A, 16A, and 17A. We heard those and advanced those, but we do need to move them into plans under consideration. You'll see they're already there under the agenda as well for consideration because we had done much of that except take a motion to do that. So is there a motion to move?
Mr. Chair, Hodge, so moved.
Is that Hodge? I'm sorry? Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Hodge moves to move Proposal 13A, 16A, and 17A to the plans under consideration portion of the agenda this evening. Is there a second? Got a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. Now, plans under consideration. I want to draw your attention to the memo that we co-chairs put out about 2 weeks ago. It's in your package, and it discusses our procedures for tonight and how we're going to do that. We've got 8 plans under consideration right now. In a moment, I'm going to ask anyone who wishes to withdraw their plans to do so. We'll take a vote to agree to withdraw their plans. And if they do that, whatever number we have left, each of you who have submitted a plan will have 5 minutes to discuss your plan. At that point in time, we'll have 15 minutes to consider whether to move that plan forward or not. So let's start and then hopefully we'll get down to 2 maps tonight, which we can then consider on Monday for our final meeting and final recommendations. But let's go ahead and begin the initial process of voluntarily withdrawing maps. So we've got 1A from Mr. Alphonse, 6A from Commissioner Hardage, 10 from Tom Callan, 11 from Jason Mellon, 12 Wes Hodge, 13A Mayor Kilsheimer, 16A Commissioner Hardage, 17A Zach Hoover. Does anyone wish to withdraw their maps in light of what we've learned since they were submitted?
Yes.
Commissioner Hardage.
Yes, Mr. Co-Chair, I will voluntarily remove map 6.
6A. Thank you, Commissioner Hardage. I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of allowing the withdrawal of map 6A, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. That motion carries. Mr. Mellon.
Yeah, I'd like to request withdrawal of map 11 to align with the concerns of Pine Hills residents.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mellon. I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second? There's a second. Is there any discussion on the withdrawal of Proposal 11?
Second, please.
Yeah, who was our second? Jimmy, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on withdrawal of map 11? Seeing none, all in favor of allowing the withdrawal of map 11, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Okay. Anyone else wish to withdraw their maps before we begin the process? Seeing none, Mr. Alfont, you're up. You've got 5 minutes.
Good evening. As to map 1A, you have a package in front of you of my changes that I'm making to the map tonight. I have the distinction of being the first map and not hearing from everybody from Pine Hills and from other areas before I did this. But I'm going to start with the first change that I'm making, which is my change 1, which basically moves all of Gotha into District 1, takes all of Metro West, and moves it into District 6. For those of you who do not know, most of District 6 at this point is Metro West is in it. I'm also making sure that all of Ocoee is in District 2. That will leave Winter Garden and Oakland still in District 1. In addition, I am making a change, number 2, to Pine Hills and Rosemount. After listening to the people of Pine Hills, I have drawn back my line to Silver Star Road where it is currently. That is the current line. I'm going back to that line.
Jimmy, let me interrupt you for 1 second. Please
Yes.
stop the clock. I just want to be clear. What he is talking about are amendments to his current map.
Correct.
And presenters, you'll have the choice of talking about your current map, reminding us about it, or talking about those amendments. So, Jimmy, what you're describing is not your current map, but rather the amendments that you want to change to your current map.
And then at the end, I will wrap it all on. Correct.
Start the clock, please.
Okay. My third amendment to my map is basically because I took out of District 2, the adjustment for Pine Hills, what I did is I put part of Good Homes Road area into District 6 to come up with the numbers so I could continue balancing. Change 4, College Park, Palma, and Fairweather Shores and Winter Park all go back to where they were originally, and basically they will be in currently, excuse me here, they will be going back to District 2. I had put them previously in other districts, but I'm going back. That is to balance everything out. And to the 492 people who are in Winter Park according to the census, even though they're not necessarily in the city limits. Change 5, I change in the area District 2 and 4 and use the Forest City Road area also to make the adjustments that were mentioned a few minutes ago. And change 6, I went and changed District 3 and 4. This change should have been done a long time ago. What I did is I put back District 3 where it was. But if you're looking at that line and you're wondering why that curve there, that is putting all of Union Park in District 4. Those of us who know, Union Park Middle School is on on the north of Colonial, and Union Park Elementary is at the south of it. It's divided by Colonial Drive, and that is the whole neighborhood of Union Park into District 4. The next change that we're making, number 7, is basically a change to downtown and Holden Lakes. I'm moving it all into District 6. I'm taking away the division that was commented here last Monday. I'm not using I-4. I am using another street. And as you can see, that matches with the city's District 6 currently. I used that line. I found it to be a better line. 8, I took Lake Vista area, and basically I made the line a little different so I could make up some of the things I took away and change 7 to District 3. Finally, in Avalon Park, my district, I made a change. I did not need to be as drastic as the first time. I'm going to make this very clear. I was trying to learn the software, and the software can be tricky when you're trying to pull on it. And I'm still dividing Avalon Park and putting it in 5, and I have no problem with that at all at this point. Also, I put part of Universal Studios area into District 6 to make an adjustment. Now, if we go to the last part of my changes, if you look at my map as a general, I still consider it the least disruptive. It looks like the current map that we have today. It does not make drastic changes. It does not make drastic changes in the population. But at the end, if you look at the numbers, 236, District 1, 237, 249 for minus 45. District 2, 238, 60, 88 for 16%. District 3, 238, 440.
Jimmy, Camille, and I will give you one more minute since I interrupted you and messed up your flow.
That's fine. I appreciate that. District 4, 239, 062.31. District 5, 237, 238.46. And District 6, 239, 231.038 for a total deviation of 0.084. What I'm trying to do with this map is be the least disruptive. Basically, the areas look the same. I allow for a COE to be where it needs to be, and some cities to be together, and some areas together, and I have no problem. I will say this to end. I do know that it's going to come that the census created a neighborhood called Alafaya, which really is not a neighborhood. It's more of an area. But District 4 and 5 will split up part of what they call Alafaya, and that's because District 4 needs to lose and 5 needed to gain. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. If you'll set the clock for 15 minutes. We now have 15 minutes, and I will say up to 15 minutes. We don't need all 15 if we don't need all 15. To discuss the map, at the end of that, there will be a vote to either move it forward onto additional consideration or remove the map from consideration. If when we go through all 6 maps tonight, we have more than 3, we will revisit each of these maps again this evening. So let me start the discussion. I see Kelly Simrod, please.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez. First, I have a comment and a question to the co-chairs. So last week, I asked a question, about our amendments, and then what would we be looking at tonight in terms of the maps. So in preparing for this meeting, we studied the existing maps, and we're going to have a lot of amendments to all of these maps. It makes for a very messy process to, for the first time tonight, be looking at a revised map without the analysis that we've had all along to look at, and I'm just concerned about the reliability and validity of this process.
We understand that, and as I cautioned on Monday that this was going to be a bumpy process because we don't know what amendments are going to come out from our presenters or from those of us on the floor who have other suggestions and tweaks and changes to the maps. So the process is we're going to try to do the best we can to winnow maps that we don't believe have a chance of success. And then staff this is Thursday, between now and tomorrow, will do the legal analysis and post on the website up to 3 maps that they'll be able to review. So going into our final meeting Monday, you'll have the same information that we're normally used to. This meeting is the only meeting where we're going to have the difficulty of not having the legal review after people make amendments, simply because there's no time to do it on the fly.
I appreciate that this is a difficult process, but Member Offwant, thank you for providing, the districts and the populations and the deviations. But at this point now, we cannot really see the changes in terms of like voters, voting age, race. We don't see any of that information.
As I said, we'll have that on Monday once no one has accepted Jimmy's proposed amendments yet either.
I understand.
So once we have those, we determine as a group if we believe that this map has sufficient merit for additional consideration. And if it does, that legal analysis will happen. If it doesn't, we winnow it out of the process. I understand your concern, and this is what I warned about on Monday.
We're voting tonight, so it would be nice to vote with whole information.
Please, Co-Chair.
I just want to point out that there's always the option to just reject a proposal as it stands and say that based on what you have, that's your decision. I mean, everybody here is going to have the same issue for any amendment that is proposed tonight. There is no way for us to accommodate from a legal analysis in all those pieces here on the fly. And given the timing and the issue of sunshine issues, we're all going to learn about the amendments that are proposed as they are announced here. So, I think there's two schools of thought here. You could just reject it as it is, or select to reject it as it is, or you could say, remember, this is a proposal that will, if this was it, a proposal that will continue to be considered. And then we still have to, go through the final process of approval. But I don't disagree with you. It's difficult because we're all learning about it as we're sitting here. But that is the methodology that we're stuck with, because there's no way to adequately, prepare and have us all, from a sunshine appropriate basis, discuss amendments outside of this.
So I guess I'll say a quick prayer that we get it right tonight then, because this is not what I was expecting. Member Offwant, thank you so much for the amendments and the presentation and for producing this for us on the fly. I support Amendment 1, moving Gotha into back into District 2. I also appreciate the movement of Avalon, part of it, into District 5. I need the Pine Hills, moving it back again to its original boundary, I think is great. My one concern, I would like to see all of Lake Butler stay in District 1 in the interest of not splitting communities.
I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
Thank you.
I would have no problem.
Thank you. A couple of things. First, if you'll add 4 minutes back to the clock to discussion, because I think Member Simrod's comments were important to all of us, and I don't want to take time away from Mr. Alphonse's presentation. And number two, at some point, and we don't have to do it now because we're talking about these changes, Jimmy, you're going to need to make a motion to amend your map to those amendments before we can consider your map with those amendments.
Can I do it now?
You can certainly do it now.
Okay, so I'll move at this point that we set the amendments that is made to map 1A, which I think will become map 1AB, or I'm not sure what.
It's going to stay 1A, Jimmy.
Okay, I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking.
It's staying where it is.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a motion from Mr. Alphonse to amend map 1A with the amendments that he just presented and has presented to us. Is there a second? Got a second. Is there discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Oh, are they? Those were not in queue for that. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mark Arias.
Thank you, Mr. Alphonse, for the map and the amendments. I can't legally agree with what the co-chair has decided. I agree with Ms. Simrod. I believe that this is not an amendment to the map. This is a new map, and I think it's being backdoored. And the fact that we're doing it on today, which is when we have to decide on 2 or 3 maps, according to what you presented today, today is not the proper day to consider amendments. Legally, I don't think this is correct. I think the maps that are before us today are the ones we need to consider, and come Monday is when we have to discuss those maps and the amendments. I cannot agree with the amendments to this map. The map has to stand as it is. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. Other comments? Mr. Callen.
It doesn't seem to be, I kind of go along with that. I'm a bit concerned. I don't know who prepared this. I guess, Jimmy, you prepared this presentation, I guess.
Yes.
But I don't see the numbers, and I don't see a map comparing what I'm seeing here on that screen with what the lines were in map 1A to show us the differences. And I don't see it compared to what map 1A showed to us, the existing district, so we know what was being moved. And this is not just one amendment, this is 11 amendments. And so I'm a bit concerned that there is no legal staff review, and in fact, we're going to evaluate this map without staff determination if it meets legal compliance. And therefore, we were going to make a determination of that without that, and that hasn't been our procedure. I don't like the idea of flying blind with something like this, so I just have a concern, especially with the extent of the amendments here. I think it does become a new map at some point. I think there's so many good things have been done here that I think are pretty good. The only problem is we don't have the numbers for tonight, and those numbers are important. And staff needs to see it. The software that we've been told to use should show that, and I'm concerned about it.
Thank you, Mr. Callen. Co-Chair Evans.
I don't disagree that it's difficult. I will say that we have, I believe, in prior meetings, in fact, I remember last meeting, made amendments without that data, and it was just fine. So it's, again, a process. If we are going to, if your preference is to not approve an amendment, then I think that's the vote that you make at every turn, if that's the approach you want to take today. However, I know, and I'm 90% certain, we had on last week's map an adjustment between the boundaries of 3 and 5 on the northern portion that was not data-driven. It was just requested, and it was fine last week. So I don't disagree with you that this is not an ideal data-driven piece like all of our other reviews. I'm just saying, for the sake of the process, my recommendation is if you're not comfortable with what you have to approve an amendment, then just vote against it.
Let me pause for just a moment. I cannot tell on the general comments screen whose comments are to talk about this issue and whose comments are to talk about the map, because it's simply on the comments screen. But let me throw out a suggestion for us to consider and talk about, because I fully agree that this is a challenge to our process. So it seems to me we have one of two options. Option one is to have our presenters come up and do what Jimmy has done and say, these are the amendments I am willing to make to my map, and I think it makes my map better, but we don't amend the map. We vote on the map that exists, that has been looked at, knowing the flexibility that that presenter has with their map. Number two, we can vote on amendments, and if we're not comfortable with the amendment process, simply vote them down and move the map through. The concept was we thought there would be 2 or 3 or 4 maps that would stand out above the others. Those with the suggested changes will be and would be legally reviewed by Monday for consideration. So that's what the weaning was about. I have no issue if the sense of the committee is to say we're going to listen to our presenters, but we're voting on the maps as they are, and the presenters can tell us what amendments they are amenable to and will be presenting to us at the next meeting, or can present to staff, and staff can review the current map with their proposed amendments for the next meeting without amending the map. So I'll put that out there as a conversation. I think if we resolve this now, it'll certainly make the rest of the evening flow more easily. So I'm going to assume everyone in order on the screen wants to speak on this issue, at which point I'm going to go to Mr. Hodge.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I'll briefly just kind of address, I think the concern, Madam Co-Chair, was that the movement of the executive airport in that small area of Azalea Park was de minimis and not greatly impactful on the map, whereas we're looking at 11 substantial changes without much data as to what they incur. So those, I think, are the concerns, and I'll save my other comments for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Madam Co-Chair?
Yes, thank you. Just a brief response to Mr. Hodge. Data is data, so regardless, if we're concerned, we're concerned. If we're not, we're not. My recommendation at this point, if we're not comfortable with amendments, then I say vote on the map as it is. I will say, Jimmy, I appreciate the effort you have put into these proposed amendments that you presented to us, because it clearly does reflect an incorporation of the comments that have been received over the course of this process. Before we arrived and I knew of these amendments, 1A was a non-starter for me. With the amendments you discuss conceptually, I think it's a much better map, and I'd be more in favor of it. But if we're going to take the approach that we don't want to approve amendments, then just let's shoot down 1A and move on.
Ms. King.
Thank you. Mr. Alfond, I really like this map. There's a lot of things I like about it. I like your concept of making as few changes as possible, and I really support that. I do struggle with the impact of the amendments, although if I did my math quickly and properly, I think it actually lowers the number of people who are moved, which is, I think, something that we should be perhaps giving more weight to. I don't understand the process. It's very hard for me to get my head around this volume of changes, and I'm struggling with being able to support a map that I thought I supported. So that's it.
Ms. Whittington.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Jimmy, thank you so much for all of the work that you've done on this. When we saw this map the first time, it was Proposal 1. That came with the legal analysis from staff. It went back with suggested amendments or recommendations, and it came back as 1A, which is the map that we have before us now. What you've presented, and then I believe that the legal analysis that staff did tonight is on 1A as presented because it came back to us from 1. So with 11 substantial changes or recommendations, I do believe, and with all due respect, Mr. Co-Chair and Madam Co-Chair, this would be a new map. And so I would find it difficult to approve putting this forward as 1A point B or whatever number that would be. I do believe that there are ways that we're able to look at some of the other maps and make those adjustments that you are suggesting in some of the other maps, because there are some good ones. But considering the process that we have been following all along, 1 came back as 1A. That was the legal analysis that we just got. That's what's in front of us. And I believe with the changes that he's proposing in the amendments, though they are good and though they take in considerable consideration of what the public has said, what they want with Pine Hills and Ocoee, I believe that this would be a new map, and I wouldn't be able to support the process.
Thank you. Mark Arias.
Once again, I'd like to reiterate, I don't even think we should legally be considering these amendments. The whole purpose of tonight's meeting was winnowing the maps that have been passed through, not to make amendments tonight. If these maps made it through, we have the next meeting to make amendments. So if the original map passes, we can make these amendments on Monday. But today's purpose was to winnowing those 8 maps, not to consider new amendments to those maps. I don't think legally we should be considering these amendments at all. That's all.
Mr. Roca.
Changing topics here. Jimmy, would you consider having a 12th Amendment? I don't know if we could have a 12th Amendment, but I'm sorry to change gears, guys, here. I was looking at your map, and I'm thinking that you made 408 a line. I was thinking, why don't you move, instead of going west on Deerfield, take the 417 from OBT to Jungyang, add that to District 4, and I think that becomes 0. Or did you try that already?
I must admit I've never tried to make any of the districts into 0 because I'm doing this because I've seen the guide of most of you. You want to have as low deviation as possible. To be quite honest, I realize it's up to 10%, and sometimes by trying to keep it low, we do certain things that don't need to be done, in my opinion. So I have no problem leaving it at 0.84, but realistically, I wouldn't even have a problem with a map that's 3.8, as long as it makes sense. And what I'm trying to do with this map is to make sense. I would have no problem, and I'm going to say this right now, take the opportunity of moving forward my map A1A, and come Monday night, if any of you want to make changes to it, to adjust what I just said today, to go forward. Legally, I never meant these to be amendments. What I wanted was to give you an idea of where I was flexible of accepting changes to my map, because I'm going to be as honest as I can right now. All the maps that are in front of me right now, if there's no changes to them at all, none of us are completely happy with all of them, if we're going to be honest with each other. There has to be some give or take. And I realize that coming here, and I'm the first, I'm going to make the life easier for the rest of you tonight by taking this hit. But realistically, we have to understand one thing. Maps as are, if you could force me to take it or leave it, I'm not a good person and take it or leave it. Each map that I like here, that I voted for, I voted with the clear understanding, I think we all know this, that changes would be coming down the pike. What I'm doing here tonight, I'm not asking for an amendment. Mark, I agree with you. But what I'm trying to tell you is, look, I realize my map has some faults. I realize I was the first person to present a map here. I was the first person that didn't hear from the people from Pine Hills. Just to give an example, I didn't hear from them until weeks later. I'm now responding to the community and what needs to be done. So basically, if you don't want to call them amendments, you want to vote 1A through, and we could discuss on Monday these proposed amendments, I'm fine with that too. But I think we need to realize that everybody's going to come here tonight is going to be either asked if they're willing to make changes or if they have any changes on their own. I'm the first one, so I understand that I went out and did this, and that might shock you, but there is no way anybody's going to come up and say to you, take my map, take it or leave it.
Jimmy, I'm going to continue because I had not finished my comment.
Yes.
If you were to consider moving the line from Deerfield to the 417, I think it's going to make that 12th Amendment really look good on your map. In regards to the comment of the map, keep one thing in mind. Whatever we do today is going to happen to this. The same thing is going to happen to all maps. So if they're all wrong, they're all wrong. It means they're all equal. Keep that in mind. Thank you, Jimmy, for answering my question.
And in fairness to your question also, Julio, any amendments that you want to make on Monday, because I think that's going to end up being the procedure here, I'm amenable to it. I mean, we're all adults here. Well, I want to make a map the least disruptive that I can. I want to make a map that people could say, yeah, you didn't change that much. And before I say anything else, I want to thank you, Joe. You show me the way to go in District 6. I follow your example, and sometimes we have to acknowledge people who do think it's better than us. So I want to acknowledge that tonight before we go on a vote.
So let me chime in for a moment, because it seems we all want to speak on this topic, and that's fine. And we can certainly do that. We've got all night. However, it seems as though we run into a bit of a dilemma. If we don't accept amendments tonight and allow them to be reviewed on a map that we think has merit on going forward for Monday, then we're going to get to Monday with those amendments, and there may be additional amendments on Monday that we're not going to be able to look at. I don't believe we are legally required to have the legal analysis of each of these before we can amend. I don't believe that's the case. But we do need to figure out which process going forward. We not anticipated 11 changes on a map. The idea coming in tonight was we would look at the maps, we would listen to the presenters, what they were willing to change. If that met some of our concerns, we would move them forward into additional consideration. And perhaps it was my error asking Jimmy if he wanted to amend his maps, and I can certainly withdraw that request and ask all of you for the rest of the evening, when the presenters come, we look at the map that's in the chamber. We then listen to what suggestions they have learned over the last 8, 10, 12 weeks and know their willingness to adopt those changes, and we vote on the map in the hopper so that, but the problem then is legal has nothing to do an analysis on for our Monday meeting, right? So if we don't have an understanding of what changes we want to a map that we like, legal can't get that analysis to a Monday meeting. So we either need to amend them, or we get down to 3 tonight, we do amendments on Monday, and we use our extra meeting Thursday to finish this process. And if that's what we need to do, if that's what you all want to do, we can certainly do that. In my mind, I think, and I don't know where everyone is on any of these maps, because as my co-chair pointed out, the challenge we have with Sunshine is we can't talk to each other about these amendments. And Jimmy can't post them and put them to the county for legal review until we voted on them. So we've got timing and Sunshine challenges. My suggestion would be, and again, we can all speak on it, but my suggestion would be we withdraw the amendment piece right now, but I'll take guidance from you all on what we want staff to look at for analysis, because if not, Monday we're going to have the exact same problem. And you know what? Thursday, if we make changes, we're going to have the exact same problem. So at some point in time, we just have to understand we can't give up good waiting on perfect. And we're not going to get perfect because of the process, the timing, and the legal review. Now, staff can do GIS on the fly right now. So they can look at these maps today, put the changes and the lines on the board for you to see, but we won't have legal analysis of those. If we're hung up on the legal analysis, then we're going to have to say we're going to amend the maps, move them forward so staff can give us legal analysis for the Monday meeting if it's a map that we want to consider, and then we're frozen at that point without making amendments other than recommending, if that map goes forward, recommending or letting the county commission know that these are amendments we'd be willing to accept or that we think makes some more sense. But if we go meeting to meeting making amendments waiting on legal, we can never finish. It just can't work physically.
Mr. Co-Chair Perez, can I give a suggestion?
Please.
I would be willing, since I'm the first here taking the shots, you will be here taking the shots too. But that I could say, look, these are my 12 amendments, give them to legal, let legal analyze these 12. And I say 12 because I put Lake Butler for the record. Yes, I would have 13, I'm sorry. It's been a long night already. And have legal analyze these, and if there's any other people who want to propose tonight, any others, then by Monday we could have an answer. That's a suggestion. That's a way to solve the problem.
Thank you, Jimmy. One more before we go down the line of speakers. And look, it's an important conversation, and I don't want to cut it off at any point. So we'll keep going.
No, it's,
Council,
it's more procedural than that.
Council, do you have an opinion on Mr. Arias' comments that we are legally required to look at the legal analysis of each of these before we move it forward?
There's no legal requirement that the committee looks at the legal analysis, and with this continuous amendments and then legal review has a lag behind it, that it can't be done at the same night. there is the possibility that the committee may approve a map with some amended lines where the Board of County Commissioners, which would be the final decision-making body on the maps regardless, would see a legal analysis on whatever final map was presented. In terms of county staff's ability to do legal analysis, it really should probably be on the 3 maps that are moving forward, that the amendments that legal does the analysis on and that GIS does the data package on are made. Having legal analysis and amendments done to all 8 is not particularly feasible to get all the information out to the public and the committee in enough time for consideration.
Yeah, no, and I wasn't looking for all 8. It was, Mark was suggesting that it may not be legal to move the maps without the legal analysis on the amendments. And I think it is. It's not ideal, but it's okay. However, again, I will leave it to the committee. We can vote a map up, we can vote a map down, we can amend a map. As long as we work through these maps tonight, that's what matters the most to me. I'm going to go back to the list, although, Mark, I did talk about your stuff, so if you want to respond before I move back to the long list.
Thank you, Co-Chair. I mean, I am concerned about the legal analysis, but that really wasn't my point. My point was more along the lines of, if Mr. Alphonse's map moves forward, then all of these things can be considered on Monday. I think the way I understood your memo was tonight's purpose was strictly winnowing. And maybe I misunderstood your memo then. But I thought it was for winnowing the 8 maps that were in front of us, not really making amendments tonight. If that's the case, we can just grab any one of these maps and we can hammer out these amendments on Monday. And we can move all these lines on Monday and make all these amendments on Monday. And we really don't need to go through any one of them, except one. Just move one forward, and then we can all get together and just argue about the one.
Your point is taken, Mark. Okay. Commissioner Hardage.
Mr. Co-Chair, one of the issues is that if we support just voting them through as they are, we may be voting one of our own maps out. So you never know which map is going to pass. But here are my thoughts on this. We all have the opportunity to talk with staff after these meetings. That's part of our process. Secondly, even though we are prohibited by sunshine to talking to individual members, we can talk to all the members if we post something to all the members. But having said that, I would suggest that we just vote maps up and down, and that's at the peril of my map even being voted down. You never know which one's going to be voted up or down, but I think we should vote them up or down and move forward. That would be my suggestion. And then on Monday, when we get down to the maps we like, then we make amendments and eliminate from those 3 that we get. But I think to try to go through each of these maps and make amendments is going to be really, really difficult, and I would not support that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And so, as a matter of fact, I would like to offer a motion that we vote the maps up or down as presented to us in our agenda.
I've got a motion to vote the maps
Mr. Chair,
up.
we already have a motion on the floor, don't we? Do we not?
This would be a new motion. This is not a motion on his map. I mean, you can't vote this motion until his motion is disposed of. But once his motion is disposed of for the amendments, then my motion would be to vote the maps up or down. If I can
Right. No, I was just looking for a second for your motion, and I'll put it behind the motion to amend and the motion on the map. I've got a second for Mr. Arias. Okay, we've got that motion in queue, and no, that's how it works. And Mr. Hodge.
May I have a point of order?
Yes,
please. I thought that we had a motion on the floor to withdraw Member Afwan's amendments.
No, he didn't make that motion.
No, but I thought that
I made that motion, and
Yeah.
yes, and I'll make it again. I'm moving my
withdraw your
motion
amendment?
to make these amendments.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on that motion? He's withdrawing his amendments. Okay. So, got a motion and a second well, basically, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to do that. We're going to vote down your motion to amend, and it has the same effect, because you've got a motion to amend open on the floor. So,
Simply put, could he not just withdraw the amendments?
well, we've got a motion and a second, so now it's on the floor, Mark. So we've got to deal with it. But so we've got a motion and a second to amend map 1A with the changes proposed by Mr. Alfont. The effect of approving this would amend it. The effect of not approving this will put us in the position that it seems as though most of the committee wants to be. Is there any discussion on that motion? Here's where we are.
Yeah, yes, you're back to square one.
I will say it again. We're considering map 1A. Jimmy has made a motion to amend map 1A with its 13 changes. We are now realizing that that seems to be a bad idea for all of us. So we have to vote on his motion to amend map 1A. If we vote that motion down, we are back to just straight map 1A that we would consider to move forward or not move forward.
Okay.
So, is everyone clear?
Can I just...
Sure, Joe.
So I want to just talk in broad general principles. And at the risk of sounding like I'm tooting my own horn, the map that I see in front of me looks a lot like map 13A.
Thank you.
And I like what I see in front of me because it resembles what I had kind of just generally thought was the best thing to do. So I think if you look at all of the different map proposals, that there are some broad themes that can be, generally ascribed to each of them. One of which is this map that's in front of us, and 13A puts Winter Garden and Oakland in District 1, and puts Eatonville in District 2, and generally tries to keep the line, hold the line in Pine Hills. All of those are kind of general themes. So if we could just think in that general direction, that there are maps that have broad themes that all kind of, gel together, then I think we can move this process through a lot quicker without having to go through this parliamentary, I'm going to say, rigmarole. And, let's move forward with alacrity and try to get out of here at a reasonable hour. So, I guess we can vote 1A up or down without the amendments, and we'll get to 13A eventually. But I could support this map, Jimmy, if you just move Gotha into District 1. So,
okay.
That's all
Excuse me. Gotha is in District 1.
A point of order. We're discussing to dispose of the amendments, and I would like for us to stay on track, please.
Exactly. Yeah. The topic at hand that we're discussing, and Mr. Roque, I see that you want to speak on this, is...
Not on this, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So the motion that we're talking about right now is the motion to amend map 1A with the 13 amendments from Mr. Alfont. It seems as though that's a bad idea at this point. So is there anyone who wishes to discuss whether or not to amend map 1A, or the motion to amend map 1A?
As a point of order, Mr. Co-Chair.
Yes, Wes.
We are on a motion to rescind the amendments right now. Am I correct?
No, we didn't have a motion to rescind the amendments. We just have to vote down the motion to amend.
Okay.
And that we never amended. We had open motions.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion to amend map 1A.
I'd like to call the question.
Thank you. If we don't like the concept of amending maps today, we vote no on this amendment. And then we will proceed going forward under Commissioner Hardage's motion, but we need to dispose of this motion first. So Wes has called the question. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any objection to calling the question here?
Yes. Thank you.
The question started.
All right.
Well, hang on, I have to take a vote. It needs 75% to call the question. So if we've got an objection, I need to take a vote. All in favor of calling the question on the vote on whether or not to amend map 1A, a yes means we're amending the map, a no means we are not amending the map. You're right, this is calling the question. This is stopping the conversation. I'm sorry. So all in favor of calling the question on map 1A, please say aye. And those opposed? Okay, it takes 75% to call the question. I think we have that. So the question has been called. We will vote on whether or not to amend map 1A. Again, a yes vote, we amend the map. A no vote, we do not amend the map. And then we will vote on map 1A itself. Okay? There's no amendments. If the amendments fail right now, there will be no amendments. Correct. Correct. The vote is whether or not to adopt all of the amendments. Are we all clear on what we're voting on? Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion on whether or not to adopt the amendments?
I believe I have a
Questions called.
discussion.
Thank you for whoever was coaching me from out there. I appreciate that. The question has been called. All in favor of allowing the 13 amendments to map 1A, please say aye. All opposed.
I abstain from voting.
The motion fails. Julio Roca abstained. So now we are on map
Excuse me,
1A.
Vice Chair, I just need some clarity here. There was a lot of voices, and my understanding is that Member Kilsheimer, you are voting to accept these changes. I need to know who the nays were that we were not going to accept the changes.
Can we not do a roll call?
I think it was everyone other than Joe.
I'm not sure about that.
Can we do a roll
I just
call?
need some clarity.
Sure. Well, then let's do a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Arias? No. Afont?
Yes.
Callan? Pardon me? Connor? Evans?
No.
Hartage? Hodge? Hoover?
No.
Pardon me?
No.
Jones? Kilsheimer? Mellon? Perez? Roca?
Abstained.
Pardon me?
I'm abstaining from voting.
A point of clarification, members of public boards in the state of Florida cannot abstain unless they have a conflict of interest, so they have to vote yes or no.
And I'll need
Well,
you to
I
file the
have
papers.
a conflict of interest with the process, I believe, based on the rules.
Then that would be, yeah.
All right, no.
Sumrod? Whittington?
No.
Motion fails.
Okay. I promised you guys Monday that this was going to be bumpy, but once we get this worked out, the rest of the evening should go fine. So, we are on the motion to advance map 1A, made by Mr. Alfont. Yep, Wes.
As a point of information, could we please have map 1A up on the screen so we can see what we're voting on? Because I do not have it as a handout.
You don't?
You should. It's in the package.
Co-chair.
Never mind, just kidding.
It does have
Co-chair,
it.
what about Mr. Hartage's motion?
We have, Mark, we've got another live motion on the floor with a second, and we'll take Mr. Hartage's motion after we deal with 1A. Thank you, though, for reminding me. So we've got a motion on the floor then to adopt committee proposal 1A as is, knowing what Member Alfont proposes as amendments to be considered at the meeting on Monday if this moves through the process. Okay, so we know where the map could go. I've got a few folks that are still on the comment speak. Does everyone on here still wish to speak on the motion? Okay. Wes.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. My issues with this is, as we have heard throughout the process, and I do take concern. Ms. Rumpf was here from the get-go commenting that she did not want to see Pine Hills split up any more than it currently is. So that was not something that came along. But I do have a huge issue with the gerrymandered look of District 5 and whether it's the amendment or the current model. We've seen ample maps using Colonial Drive as the border that has worked out very, very well for almost every other map under consideration this evening, and I cannot justify making District 5 even narrower than it currently is and The commissioner for District 5 has also shared her sentiment on that. And also, after hearing with the community from Pine Hills, seeing that this is the map we're considering, I cannot support the changes in Pine Hills. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Co-Chair Evans.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez. I think that we've all acknowledged through a myriad of 13 amendments and conversation that Proposal 1A as it currently stands does not capture the things that are important to many of our members here of the community. So I think we should just move forward with with disproving this map, to removing this map, and move on with our evening.
Mr. Callen.
I was thinking that we should just go ahead and move forward with disproving this map, rejecting this map, and move on with our evening.
Tom, you were in line to speak.
Jimmy's amendments that we just rejected that solved a lot of the problems this map 1A has. There's a fingers and there's lack of compaction along 441 east of Rosemont down 441 down to 50. There's also some fingers and lack of compaction that wraps around District 6 by District 1. I do share in the concern about narrowing District 5 a bit too as well. But, you know, again, I kind of like some of the amendments you did. I just wanted to see the numbers. Unfortunately, the numbers are important to see that and where the incumbents' residences are. Those on 1A, we still have the issues of a gerrymandered look in about 2 or 3 spots that remain. It doesn't move the ball forward as much from the current map.
Thank you, Tom. Julio Roca.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you, but I think I wanted to comment earlier on the fact that the co-chairs can set the rules and we move forward. But it's an hour and a half in the same map, so I pass my comment.
Virginia Whittington.
I think the concerns I have been addressed by Co-Chair Evans, and if it is in order, I would like to make a motion that we reject map 1A.
I don't know where our discussion clock is. We've got a motion on the floor to accept it at this point, so we need to dispose of that motion at some point. Once discussion is over, we've run out of time clock on this thing. We're at 18 minutes. I don't know what that means. So, Ms. Whittington, if you will wait a moment, got one speaker left in queue, and then we can dispose of the motion one way or the other. Mr. Arias.
I was agreeing with Mr. Callen's and I think Mr. Hodges' opinion on the way the lines are drawn on 5 and the way the fingers wrap around 6. I'm sorry, there's been so much going on, I think I lost my thought. So I was going to say something, but I can't remember what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
I'm sure it was amazingly intelligent. It was. Ms. Simra, did you want to?
Yes, please. Thank you, Co-Chair. I know that there's not a legal requirement for us to see the numbers, but I do think that there is a moral and ethical requirement to the people of Orange County that we make educated decisions that are based on data. I also think that it's in the best interest of Orange County residents that when we hear amendments that make a map worthwhile of consideration, so we know what Jimmy is amenable to, it makes the map a good map.
I remember.
But if we vote up or down 1A, I'm not voting for 1A as is. And so my point is that we have a hole in this process where we are no longer best serving the residents of Orange County by following the winnowing process down. I mean, we now have a map that has a lot of other consideration after weeks of hearing from people. I know that there might be some similar maps, but it's just, in my opinion, this is a flawed process. understand how they are amenable. We get a legal analysis from it. We're able to analyze the data and then make an educated decision as to whether or not that map is suiting to the people of Orange County.
Until the next meeting when someone wants to make another amendment.
Mr. Co-Chair, I have a point of order.
Yes.
At this point, we are now 25 minutes over the 15-minute discussion, which is permitted by our bylaws, and we have not had a vote or a decision by the co-chairs to extend the conversation. I would suggest that we dispose of this map and move forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Let me, in light of the fact that a lot of this is procedural, let me just listen to the last couple of speakers out of respect, and I appreciate your suggestion. And Jimmy, we'll let you wrap up at the end. But and then we'll deal with a motion on the floor, which is to advance committee proposal 1A. Mark Arias.
During this long discussion, I think I heard committee member Kilsheimer say that 1A was pretty close to his map. Was my understanding correct?
No.
With the amendments. So will we not, in a way, be considering these amendments under his map when it comes up?
No.
No? So
No.
come Monday, or today, if we move forward Kilsheimer's map, would these amendments could not be made on Monday, the ones that we're talking about?
I don't think it's identical.
So then, again, what I was saying in my previous is, we can pick any one of these maps and hammer out the lines on Monday, or Thursday, or whatever day. We don't need to move forward 4 maps to argue over 4 maps. We can move forward 1 map and argue about the 1 map. I mean, that seems like common sense to me. That's just a thought.
Thank you, Mr. Arias. Commissioner Hardage.
Yeah, I think our procedure to move forward with 3 maps is probably the best, but there's nothing in our bylaws that says that the board, that Mr. Alfont could not make the same amendments to any of the 3 maps that come before us. So just because this map is voted up or down today does not mean that you could not get the thing that you're mentioning in any of the existing maps. So I would say let's move forward, and if some of the issues, if your map is voted up, then we'll handle it then. If it's voted down, then the items that you like the most, just make an amendment to one of the maps that go forward, and then work to get the 8 votes you need to get it passed. There's nothing that prohibits us from adding these into any future map.
I am confused, and I must admit it. Because
Well, let me try to make it a little bit clearer. Let's say we vote up map number 25, which we do not have, and you had a change in your map, number 1A, that you wanted to add to that map. You could just simply make a motion, and if you get the votes, it could be added.
but we won't have a legal analysis.
No, we are not going to have any more legal analysis after next week.
As long as
So
that's clear.
Yeah, so anybody can make a motion to add anything to any existing map, as long as they can get 8 votes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Zach Rover.
I say this enormously respectfully to the presenting member and also to the request that potentially this committee needs more time. I think these are really welcome and thoughtful changes that you've submitted to this map. I just wish they would have been submitted prior to the November 29th deadline so that we could have considered them in a timely fashion. If the process moving forward is that we propose these actual amendments Monday and consider them at a final meeting, I'm fine with that process. But I think for the purposes of tonight, moving forward to just vote on the maps as they stand would be a great process.
Thank you, Zach. Virginia.
Mr. Co-Chair, Madam Co-Chair, members, that's exactly what I said 30 minutes ago. That we have other maps that could be amended that have already had the legal analysis, and we're an hour and a half on the first map. And I would really like to move this process forward if we can. I mean, it is a good map. Jimmy, you did a good job. But there is another map that you can offer amendments to that will get you where you are. It's already there.
Thank you, Jimmy. You've got just a brief amount of time to sum up, and then we are way past the point. As been pointed out by Mr. Hodge, and I will call the question on the running of the clock.
Okay, let me start by the thing I can amend. You're right, and we can amend on Monday, and I'm not sure if we continue amending on Monday, other maps, where we're going to go. I think what we need to give ourselves is some flexibility. I did not mean to amend this map. I meant to basically say, I have listened to the community and I made some changes. I could have not submitted a new map or amendments to the map by the 29th, because the way I read it, I would have to have made a new map. And basically at that point, if I had done that on the 29th, to be quite honest, I'm not sure if I would have listened, as I've listened to the community of Pine Hills and other communities that came here Monday night for the first time, which was past the 29th. The other issue, to be quite honest, I'm going to be honest, I was with my family between that week of Thanksgiving, and I mean this respectfully, I had to also take care of my family and live my life. Look, if we're going to take the dangerous route, and it's not about my map, if you're going to ask me to take each map tonight as is, I'm going to have to say to you each respectfully up front, I'm going to have to vote against you, because basically when I accepted your maps is with certain changes in mind. And if you're not going to tell me which changes you're willing to accept here from me, and basically that might put me in the precarious position of yay or nay. And if you're going to tell me, well, you have to vote it as is, each one of the maps here tonight I liked and I voted for. But each one of them I voted with certain reservations. And if you're going to be honest with each one of you here tonight, you did the same. And basically, if we're going to say, well, no to this one, but you could put those changes on the next one, it's very interesting, but I would have to get you guys to accept my changes. And if you don't accept them, because it's your map, then I can't amend them. So saying that they can be amended is probably where Mark is trying to come from. Let's take one map and let's all of us say what we want on it and go home. Because basically that would probably be the easiest way. Because otherwise, I have no problem with you people voting it down or voting it up. But if we're going to go strictly on the way the maps are today, and I cannot propose any changes and none could be really offered, I'm going to be honest. You're putting me in a position of take it or leave it. And I don't want to be cruel, but if you put me in that position, I'm going to have to say no. And that is where I think you're coming from when you say, when Wes says I cannot take 5, my proposal, I changed that. I put back everything back in 3. Yes, I did. If you look at it, I did.
Okay, let's move forward at this point.
So what I'm trying to say, at this point, you know, we could go whichever way you want, but it is a dangerous thing to just assume that come Monday we can make all the changes that we need. I think we're going to be into next Thursday, and I think Kelly's right. We might be even longer. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Virginia, did you want to have a...
Yes, I do, because each of these maps came before us as map number 1 through 17 and 18. They had a legal analysis. They were presented by the proposer. The proposer accepted certain amendments at that time, which is why they came back in the form they are now, with the A behind it. Tonight is to winnow. This is to get this down from 8 maps. We've got it to 6. Now we've got to get it down to 3 or 4 that we will then be able to determine which is the best map from that. That's the process that I understood we were following. And if it's going to take us an hour and a half, we need dinner, because this is a long process for each. And we're talking about process. We're not talking about the maps now at this point.
No,
and your point is taken, Virginia, and that's why, fortunately, we've had this first map to have this conversation, and going forward, we're going to know what we are doing. So at this point, because we are now 34 minutes over our discussion time, and admittedly much of it is on process, I'm going to call the question. Well, he did, but we were still on the clock. But who called? Wes called the question? Yeah, the time called the question. So the motion on the floor is to move Committee Proposal 1A forward for additional consideration. Clerk, I'm pretty sure we're going to need a roll call vote on this.
Arias? Affont?
Yes.
Callan? Pardon? Pardon, Callan, I'm sorry? Thank you. Connor?
Yes.
Evans?
No.
Hartage?
No.
Hodge? Hoover?
No.
Jones? Kilsheimer? Mellon? Perez? Roca?
No.
Semrod? Whittington?
No.
The motion failed.
Thank you, Clerk. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank
for
you.
Enduring. Okay. So as we move forward now, to save us an hour and a half on each map, I think we've been clear and the committee has made its intention clear, which is we will listen to what suggestions you may have. You'll re-familiarize us with your map in the 5 minutes. We will listen to your suggestions, and then we're going to vote the map as it is, up or down. We're all clear there then. Okay. We've lost 3 members possibly to biology, so I'm going to suggest...
Just point of order, Mr. Co-Chair, Ms. Co-Chair. Do you want to move the my motion forward now, or you just want me to, I can withdraw the motion if there's consensus.
Commissioner, we could move it forward, and I apologize, it slipped my mind, your motion, but I think we've got consensus to do
I'll
exactly.
be willing to withdraw it if the second would withdraw.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thanks for keeping me clear on that. Let's take about 10 minutes, because biology seems to be calling many of us, and come back at 8:35. Welcome back. We're reconvening our advisory committee for redistricting on December 9th. Next on the agenda is a redistricting plan proposal 10 submitted by member Tom Callan. Tom, you've got 5 minutes, and I think we have the process figured out now, and hopefully we'll move a little more quickly as we go through these. Tom, 5 minutes.
Is it okay for me to make the presentation sitting down?
Yes, sir. You are welcome to do so.
Thank you. I don't want to risk being up there for 45 minutes.
That will not happen again, sir.
Okay. I'll just say a couple things, just generally speaking. Looking at the 5 maps we had here today, it looks like to me that I like 12. I like 13A and 12 to go forward, and then for us to then whittle down those two. That seems to make the most sense to me. The purpose of District 10 map was to try to reach a negative number on 1 and 6 primarily, 1 and 4 primarily, District 4 and District 1, which had the most growth. What we have to be faced with on District 1 is how to reduce the population by over 30,000 people in districts, and then the same thing about over 20,000 in District 4. Those are the 2 most populated districts. And so we have to work on these numbers. My map 10, it's up there. You saw that. It does bring down District 1 1.23%. I suggested that, having grown up in South Seminole County, just over the county line for the past 55 years, I've seen the development of Maitland and Eatonville and how Eatonville and Maitland both extend west of I-4. And so I thought, when I drew this map, was to, and I'd heard from some people that Eatonville would want to consider going into District 5, thinking that they haven't gotten enough attention in District 2. And so that was the reason for me drawing that line of 434. Also, I lived up there on Lake Fairview, and I saw the neglect on that corridor around Lee Road to the Ben White Raceway. And the county District 2 commissioners over the years, I'm not saying the current one, but over the years, haven't really paid attention to that area. And I don't think that area has anything to do with Apopka, North Lake. I think it's completely different issues. It's an urban area. It's not a suburban area. So I try to clean that up and take that finger from District 2 that extended between District 6 and District 3. Then it was a numbers game on District 6 because we had to come up with about 31,000 more people in District 6 and still try to maintain that composition of District 6 to ensure that the 19% of African Americans who live in this county are properly represented on the commission. And so that was what I tried to do. I ran the numbers up higher. I went up higher a couple times, but I kept Lake Orlando and Rosemont in District 2. I tried to make sure that parity. I was mindful of the fact that in Rosemont and District 2, the African American population was roughly about 10,000 less than the white population. There's a growing, I noticed in these maps that there's 20% of our county identifies as biracial. That really surprised me and a lot of my friends, and not just my white friends. My friends of color, my friends of Hispanic, they were surprised by that. And so I tried to keep those numbers there. I don't like this part. I drew this up before Wes Hodge came in with a better draw of the map. Wes came up with a better map of trying to keep District 6 north of Silver Star Road. Keep it close as possible. And so I don't like this part of this, what does that. I did come up with a map 18 and 19. I did include that area, the back half of Metro West that's in District 1. I did include that in District 6. This map does not do that. So if you you pull back the line from the north towards Silver Star Road, but include the area, the back half of Metro West in District 6, I think those numbers will probably balance. I just mapped it. I did take ORMC out not because of I-4. Okay, I took it out because it's part of the SOTO community plan overplan in the city of Orlando. ORMC is only one component of that area. This nodule there extends all the way south of Michigan. And so that area is a lot different. So if you want to pull back this map and put ORMC back into District 6, but the residential area south of that, which is north of Cayley, We can draw a map and show that later on. That would be something I really wouldn't mind. My concern was probably there's a great redevelopment going on down there. There's some new development that's going to put probably a couple, 3,000 residential units in 6-story condos and apartments off Cayley, right by the Pulse Memorial. So that was something that I'd be mindful to do. I personally think that Winter Garden all should be as much as possible in District 2. I think Lake Apopka is a great resource. I think it should be protected. I wanted to extend District 3 down to capture more population there. And I put the area east of the Econ in District 5, so one commissioner represents the east part of the county east of the Econ, because I think there's going to be development pressures in the future. And I think having that one district with one, and there's been a demonstrated leadership in District 5 for environmental protection. They've elected Emily Bonilla twice, and that environmental protection extends beyond just the area there, but it goes all the way into Maitland and Winter Park. So that's why I included that. Overall, the map is nice. It does address some of the things that Homer was concerned about, and it doesn't extend into Williamsburg. I like that part. But it keeps most of Meadowwoods. I tried to draw it up to Weatherby Road. That map was rejected by this committee, where I kept all of the area down there. But
Tom, you're a minute over, Tom. If you
okay.
If you can
So anyway, this is the map. I don't think you all like it. I look at it more. I think there could be some changes to it. And it won't hurt my feelings if you all say no.
No.
Julio Roca, man, that's cold. That's just cold.
You got to read a jury sometimes, folks.
Okay, we've got 15 minutes to discuss this map. I'll take any speakers at any time. We don't need the full 15 minutes if someone wishes to make a motion. But Wes Hodge.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Mr. Callan, this is a good map. I appreciate the work that you put into this, and I think that the areas of concern that you addressed we'll talk about on the next map. But thank you, and I think we have a lot of commonality between our two maps, so thank you.
And thank you, Tom, for the map. I just wanted to make a comment about Lake Apopka because I've been heavily involved in Lake Apopka issues. There are some very dedicated environmental activists in Orange County with regards to Lake Apopka, but historically, from the county's perspective, especially the county bureaucracy, there's very, very little attention paid to Lake Apopka. The majority of people who are interested in Lake Apopka live in Lake County because that's where the water goes from Lake Apopka. And I know that there's just a multiplicity of interests. There are the people who live in Montverde who have their own interest in Lake Apopka. The people in Mount Dora are interested in Lake Apopka. The people who live all the way up into the Harris chain are interested in Lake Apopka. There's the Lake County Water Authority, which is an elected body which spends about a third of its time on water that comes from Lake Apopka. So I don't think there's any shortage of interest with regards to Lake Apopka, and I'm not sure that the multiplicity of interest, in my opinion, does not warrant having one, all of Lake Apopka in one Orange County Commission district.
Co-Chair Evans.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez. Mr. Callan, thank you for this map, and I appreciate your acknowledging that you've heard concerns from us before. I continue to think that the appropriate approach, based on the comments we've heard, is not to raise the northern boundary of District 6. Then I think that there should be, I don't want any creep between 6 and 3. I think that 6 is already a small district, 3 is already a small district, 1 and 4 need to be drawn from, and I think those are the appropriate boundaries to pursue. You've heard my commentary before. I think to save the benefit of time, I'd like to make a motion to reject this map.
I've got a motion from Chair Evans with a second from Mr. Alfont to reject Committee Proposal 10. We'll take discussion on the motion. I'm going to continue along our general comment section. Kelly, you're next. The motion on the floor, however, is to reject Proposal 10.
I understand. I just want to make sure that when we're voting, so now we're voting for every map as is, no consideration for amendments.
That is what you desired, yes. Jimmy Alfont. Okay, so we have a motion from Co-Chair Evans with a second from Jimmy Alfont.
Call the question.
Question has been called. Commissioner Hardage did weigh in, but the question is, was that called by you, Ms. Hall? Okay. Is there a second to calling the question? There's a second by Mr. Hodge. All in favor of calling the question, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Question shall be called. All in favor of rejecting Committee Proposal 10, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Committee Proposal 10 is rejected. Commissioner. Can we fix their mics? There we go. Oh, that's why.
Okay, and I'm not sure I need to give a reason, but there are some reasons for keeping this map. The numbers that it keeps for the voting population of District 6 are very appropriate from my perspective, so I would like my vote to be recognized as in support of the map.
Thank you, Commissioner. I did not hear you
Not
vote.
that it matters at this point. But
I did not hear you vote no, but thank you, Commissioner. Okay, let's proceed on to Redistricting Plan Proposal 12. Wes Hodge, you got 5 minutes.
Wait, please.
I'm sorry?
I please. I tried to
Mark,
get on the
you
vote.
I didn't see you there.
That's
I apologize.
okay. I'm sorry. We were working kind of fast, and I'm not sure I understood the motion to call the question. The way you phrased it, it was to move Map 10 forward?
To reject Map 10.
Okay. I would ask, Co-Chair and the committee members, when we're dealing with these maps, since they are so specific, and maybe I'm just being, I don't know, persnickety, I would like I would like a roll call so that I understand who's voting yes or no, because as Commissioner Hardage wanted to say yes, I thought I said yes, thinking that the map was moving forward, but you asked the motion negatively. So I didn't quite get that.
Well, the motion was made negatively. Let me be clear. I repeated the motion.
I understand.
Notwithstanding, was there any other who felt like their vote was recorded the wrong way? The only no we have to the rejection at this point was Commissioner Hardage. Mark, did you?
I would be another one.
Okay, so it would have been 13-2, Madam.
Well, make it me too. Include me as well.
Okay. Call it 12-3. You seconded the motion to withdraw your. Okay. Notwithstanding that, henceforth, Mark, as you request, we will have roll call votes on each map.
Just to be clear on the record.
I've got no issue with it. Wes Hodge, if you dare.
I was ready to go. First, thank you to our members of the public who are still here with us. On the face, I do like Committee Proposal 12, but it can be better. And if you'll indulge me, and this is where I put a lot of time and energy into this presentation does take into account and present to you what the amendments would do as far as the demographics and the populations in great detail. First, District 1 would incorporate a portion of Metro West and Winter Garden south of Colonial Drive. This is a compromise map. This is a compromise of hearing from the community, hearing from our committee members, and respecting their wishes. The compromise here with the COE is to go down to the Turnpike and the 408. And the reason is because I look at a COE and Winter Garden, they are identical. And if we're going to drive a line through the middle of Winter Garden and fight to keep a COE united, we're elevating the citizens of Ocoee above the citizens of Winter Garden, and that does not sit right with me. We're either going to keep them both united or we're going to split them both in half. So my compromise here was to use the Turnpike and the 408, incorporating, as Mr. Alfont did with his map, Metro West, and then shifting the boundary just ever so slightly to the Hunters Creek boundary. District 2, after meeting with Mayor Cole, he gave me about 45 minutes of his time and several of the town council members. They are emphatic that Eatonville is to remain in District 2. So I moved the line to I-4 for Maitland, which is consistent with the previous map. And thank you to the community of Pine Hills. I was able to find a way through this amendment to keep the original line with District 2, but incorporating the Lake Orlando area into District 6 to give the population that District 6 needs, and then to drop the southern border to the 408 and Turnpike as we just discussed. District 3, the small changes as this board we talked about, making sure the executive airport and Azalea Park Elementary remain in District 3. That's absolutely 100% my intent there. Reuniting Holden Lakes, reuniting the city of Belle Isle by moving that line down to the South Chase and Meadowwoods border, as well as moving through the airport property. There's no population change there. District 4 was to add the submarine, as Member Hoover called it, back on the east side, and then to listen to Member Alphonse's concerns, bringing it back over to Econ Trail. The only issue that I had, and this is where I'm asking for a compromise, is that in that red box is where the actual community center is. And if you include that box, you now have to include all the way over to where the current boundary is, and then it starts to look more and more gerrymandered. And if one thing was consistent through our presentations, it was to avoid the look of gerrymandering. Jumping to District 5, the biggest changes here are to move it solidly over to Orange Blossom Trail and Colonial Drive, and it maintains 528 as the southern border. District 6 is probably the most important changes for me, because I wanted to make sure, as when we did District 3, we put it out towards Lake Nona where we know there will be growth. It's not taken into account, but I know there will be growth there. District 6 is landlocked with very little potential for growth. So I wanted to make sure that it was given the opportunity to compete with the rest of the county commission districts as they grow with growth. So it sits at a positive 1%, with the changes being, oh, I lost my page. With the changes being moving up to include Lake Orlando and then shifting the border from 528 down to Central Florida Parkway for that little notch. Substantively, this is pretty much the same map. I did take into what our committee said about Williamsburg, keeping it in District 1. So those are the amendments I think would be reasonable. You see the impacts of them, but if that's something I think we could take into consideration. But I like 12 as it is, but I would be very, very amenable to the changes which I have presented, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. We'll begin discussion on the map. Co-Chair Evans, you're first up. That wasn't you. That is you, but you didn't put. Okay. Mark Arias.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge, for your map. Good map. The original map, 12, I like. I'm not sure if we're debating the amendments or not, but I can't be double-sided or hypocritical. If we're considering amendments, I don't think tonight would be the right night because we've already said that we weren't going to do that with Mr. Alphonse. So I would vote to move the map forward because I like your original map. And come Monday, we can discuss these amendments that you want to do, but I don't think these amendments should be considered tonight. That was my point.
I support you in that, and that's why I said I'm comfortable 100% with the map that it is, but it could be better, which is what I would like to have staff come back if we decide to move this map forward.
Commissioner Hardage.
Yep, I see, again, great effort. He does something with the District 6 boundary up at, for the Pine Hills area on Silver Star that I like, but there are several things that create an issue in terms of moving this forward. One, it changes the boundaries of Maitland, which is not necessary. He's correct that Eatonville has expressed an interest to be in one district, even though some people think it should be split. I've voted against his maps mainly because of the southern boundary of District 6, which includes Williamsburg. There's a reason for that. It dilutes the voting power of the current members of District 6. Secondly, there's an opportunity to include all of Ocoee into District 2, and that line goes right down 50. I think that should be changed. So given that, there are just too many things that would need to be amended to make this more amenable. And the bigger issue for me is that we are trying to elect a community that, that looks like the population. It decreases the voting power of District 2 from 31.7% to 28%. It decreases the voting age population of District 6 from 48.78% to 46%. But it increased the population of the majority community from 20.59% to 22.59%. Now, those might be items around the edge or a little bit technical issues, but they mean a lot when you're talking about voting in Florida and Orange County. So for those things, I would think that this would not be a representative map, and I would have to vote against it.
Julio Roca.
I share the sentiments of the commissioner, probably like 95% of them, and for the matter of time and us going home, I'm not going to get into that one. I also have a concern that District 5, I think he goes from Seminole to Osceola, so I'm against this map. Thank you.
Co-Chair Evans.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez. On the basis of the comments we had and have heard, which I think we've all discussed before, and the fact that we're not considering the amendments, I'd like to make a motion to reject Proposal 12.
Second that motion.
There is a motion by Co-Chair Evans and a second. Julio Roca was first by Mr. Roca to reject Committee Proposal 12. We will take discussion on the motion. I'm not seeing any speakers. If anyone wishes to speak, please push your button. Mr. Hodge.
All right. Is there nobody else to speak? I'd like to just do a summation then.
Oh, no, they're signing up now.
Okay, then I will defer.
Okay. Tom.
I just thought Wes did a nice job of answering the Silver Star Road, what the residents of Pine Hills wanted. And I thought it's a very good collaborative map. It takes a little bit from each one and tries to make a collaborative map. I think this has, along with 13A, the probably two that should be considered by us next Monday with changes to both. So I would move this forward. I would be against the motion.
Thank you, Tom. Kelly.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez. So this was the map that I preferred out of all of the maps. However, now we have amendments that we're considering, and again, I'm going to go back and reiterate my point. We have no data. So Commissioner Hardage brings some important points, but again, we have no data to actually look to see if to see if this would be a contender to move it forward. So,
yeah, if I
will say again, wait, I want to be clear. We're not considering amendments. What Member Hodges said is, if this map moves forward, it can be amended on Monday to make these changes.
I understand, but Commissioner Hardage brought up some points regarding data, that if we made the amendments, perhaps those data points would improve to represent the community. But because we have no data tonight, we cannot estimate if that would be an improvement. Therefore, we have a map that is good, but that we may not vote for because we don't have the story of the data behind it to validate our point.
The argument that you made on Mr. Alfon's map was we can't make amendments because we don't have data to make amendments. So we have to choose, and we've chosen to not consider amendments, but rather to listen to what the presenter is willing to do and then decide if Monday we do it, and if we make amendments Monday, we can either advance it to the county commission with those amendments, or we can come back next Thursday with the changes to the maps with the amendments.
My recollection is quite different. What we decided to do was vote on maps as is.
Correct.
So as it is, vote it up or vote it down.
As you think about your process, you think about the suggested amendments that might be available to be made.
You cannot have it both ways. It cannot be that you vote on a map as is while thinking and considering about possible amendments that might be made, but you have no idea if the map maker would, one, adopt them, or two, if the committee would approve them by majority.
And that is why we would vote to advance, and if there were amendments made on Monday, we would come back on Thursday with that data.
If I may respond, Mr. Co-Chair. I do share the concerns, and that's why every single one of my proposals has these numbers are per the changes. So if you want to see what the amendments, if taken as whole, would do, it's all right here in this table. These are the if these amendments are adopted on Monday, this would be the outcome. That's not what we had with the first map. I have gone above and beyond by providing you this data, so you have this data right here to refer to. So if you like the basis of this map, I would urge you all to please move it forward. I would love for legal to look at these amendments, and they will come back with generally what is right here. But this is what an amendment map would look like based off of what the consensus is, I believe, of this committee and the community. So I would take objection to the fact that we don't have the information, because I went to great lengths to make sure it was provided.
Member Hodge, I really appreciate the above and beyond effort, but procedurally, if we apply one process to one map, we must apply the process dually to all other maps of consideration.
And
so although we have your data that you did, it's not a legal analysis. So it's that we're voting on this map as is, and the unfortunate process that we're in this evening is that we cannot vote on maps as what we anticipate that they might be on Monday.
I understand that, and respectfully, you all adopted a process to reject amendments not seeing what I had done. So you did not have a full set of information to make a basis on. I would not have amended map 1A based on what I was presented tonight. This is not apples to apples. This is a completely different presentation. The map on its own is a good map that should be moved forward. I am more than happy to amend this map to make it what the community and what this board wants based off of what we've heard. And I think that that is what these amended changes are. So I will leave it at that.
Mark Arias. Oh, no? Ruth Ann Connor King.
Member Hodge, I really like this map, and I can be very comfortable supporting this map, knowing that you are amenable to some of the amendments that you have mentioned. I can make a distinction between this and the former map. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julio Roca.
I call the question.
Question has been called by Mr. Roca, seconded by Mr. Alfont. All in favor of calling the question, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the no was Tom? Tom Callan. Motion to call the question carries. Then the vote on the motion. The motion is to reject and not advance committee proposal 12. Clerk, would you please call a roll call?
Arias?
Wait, let me just be clear. This is to reject, so I'm stating it in the negative. So if you say yes, you are rejecting the map. If you say no, you want to keep the map.
I want to keep the map.
If we can turn off all of our mics, if there's 3 mics on, everyone is muted. And that's been a problem.
Vote to move this map forward.
So that's a no.
So that's a no.
Thank you. Member Font?
Yes.
Callan?
We didn't have a full 15 minutes discussion on this map before the question was called. And I thought I didn't have an opportunity to make some comments that I thought were appropriate. And so I'm going to vote no on the motion. This map has good bones, should be accepted.
Connor? No. Evans?
Yes.
Hartage? I'm sorry, if you could turn your mic on, I'm sorry. To reject map proposal 12?
Yes.
Hodge?
No.
Hoover? No. Jones? No. Kilsheimer? Mellon? Yes. Perez? No. Roca? Yes. Semerad? Whittington?
Yes.
The motion passes to reject map proposal 12.
Madam Clerk, what were the yeas, the yes, and the no votes?
8-7, Commissioner.
It was 8 yes,
Yes.
and yes vote was to?
Reject.
Correct. So the map is rejected?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. And just on a
Mr.
point of-
Co-Chair, I would like to amend my vote, please. I'd like to vote yes, for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Hodge wants to reject his vote and make it a yes.
Wow.
And Tom, just for the record, we stopped the debate before the 15 minutes because the call the question was called and more than 75% voted to call the question. And honestly, you weren't on the board. I didn't see you on the board. Okay, so we are down to Mayor Kilsheimer, Plan Proposal 13A.
If it's okay with the board, I'm just going to sit here at my little table.
Is that a little table?
So, just to recap, map 13A in broad general themes. The broad general themes are, to the extent possible, keeping cities together in single districts. In District 1, we have Oakland and Winter Garden. Gotha remains in District 1. In District 2, we have Ocoee and Apopka and Eatonville. In District 5, Maitland and Winter Park. There's no way to keep Orlando, in a single district, so Orlando gets split up. With regards to the northern boundary of District 6, I think it's not exactly what the Pine Hills people have said they want, but it is close to what they want. So I think, that incorporates the much, if not, I'll just say much of the desire of the folks from Pine Hills. With regards to District 3, it was very close to Member Alphonse map, and the only thing that bothers me about the map is the deviation in District 4 is a little high. It's higher than the rest, but none of these maps are going to be perfect, and I think this represents the best attempt to keep communities together and to reflect the desires of the people that have made public comment before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll open discussion on Proposal 13A. Mark Arias.
I cannot support this map. The lines drawn for District 4 give it a 2.25% over. As long as these maps are legally sufficient, and I brought this up at the last meeting, we can take into consideration future growth. The future growth in Lake Nona is tremendous. You're creating an overpowering district for whatever commissioner wins District 4. I believe that all the other districts will be at a disadvantage when you consider the fact that you've got projects like Walt Disney World moving into Lake Nona. You're going to have an explosion of money, an explosion of people, an explosion of votes in District 4. You were concerned in your own district, too, about that exchange that you brought up, I think it was last time or the time before, where your particular district was also going to explode. I see that you reduced yours by 1.44, and you reduced 1 as well, which is also projected for future growth. 6 and 3, I again tell the committee members, has nowhere to go but south. You are handcuffing District 3 by drawing that line on 528. And you're overpowering District 4 by giving it that population, that money, those votes. Take that into consideration, please. 3 and 6 have to move. 2, 1, 4, and 5 don't. They have land to develop. They have more land than 3 and 6. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arias. Jimmy.
First of all, Lake Nona is in the city of Orlando. It is serviced by the city of Orlando. And for the record, it's never even mentioned as population in the demographics because the way the census created its communities, it put everything in the cities. You will now not find Lake Nona in the neighborhoods that are discussed here. You're not going to find Arrow Estates because it's in the city of Apopka. You're not going to find, for that matter, Baldwin Park because it's the city of Orlando. And basically, they're served by the commissioners of the city of Orlando and not by the commissioners. Joe, I could work with you with this map. You saw my map. Basically, you could take out of Avalon Park, give to 5. That would reduce it. There's in my proposal, the lines have already been drawn. You could do that. You could also give a little bit more to District 3 by taking it all the way to the 408 and that little curve that is there. There are ways of working this out. The problem that I have, and I'm going to say this very honestly, is in deference to everybody. Yes, there are certain areas that are going to grow. There's certain areas that are not going to grow. But with all due respect, at times when I was doing my maps and taking that into account, I changed the dynamics of those communities. And we do not need to change the dynamics. And one last thing, since you brought it up, Mark, I'm going to mention it. Be careful of changing voting patterns. People in Meadowbrooks are ready to vote for Commissioner District 4 next August. If you put anything in there and take it and put it into 3, they're going to have to wait 6 years to vote for their commissioners because you're taking away their vote. I can support this map. I think, Joe, you said it correctly. It's similar to my end map. It is. And I think it's, like you said from the beginning, we do not need to continue disturbing the community. I really have no real problem with it. The final numbers that I see here are okay, but I'm going to end with this. We're very concerned about being under 10%. The legal requirement is under 10%. It's not 1%, it's not 2%, it's under 10. To a certain degree, we have to understand that either we change communities drastically or we accept that there's going to be some deviation. Thank you.
Co-Chair Evans.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of Map 13A. I don't think it's perfect, but since we're making decisions on maps as they stand today, I'm in favor of moving Map 13A forward. I do recognize and agree with Member Arias that the population allocation for District 4 as proposed in this map needs to be addressed. I think you quite rightfully see that District 3 as proposed is at a negative 0.59 and 6 is at 0.25. Both of those are landlocked districts that are small. On its face, 13A as it is right now, I think is probably, in my opinion, our strongest map, if not the strongest, one of our strongest, if not the strongest. But I am hopeful that we as a committee can move forward with bringing some proposals for amendments at the next meeting, assuming this moves forward. But it would be my motion to move 13A forward.
Second the motion.
I've got a motion to move 13A forward. Who was the second? It was Virginia. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Next up, Julio Roca.
Yes. Let me just say this. I love this map from the first time it came up. I think I've been the second cheerleader to the mayor to this map. I call the question.
Mr. Chairman, I haven't had a chance to comment on this.
Yeah, we
called the question.
The question has been called. You guys can vote down the call of the question. We still have 8 minutes of debate and 5 of you wanting to speak. So there is a call of the question. Is there a second to call the question?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Alfont to call a question. All in favor of calling the question? I need 75% vote to stop debate to call the question. All in favor of the call? Actually, you know what? Let's just roll call if we got to get to 75%. Madam Clerk, please, by the way, when you say your vote, and I was supposed to tell you this at the beginning of the meeting, please turn on your mic and speak into the mic. The clerk's been having a hard time hearing us. And if your mic is on and you're not speaking, turn it off, because 3 mics on mute all the other mics.
Thank you. Motion to call the question. Arias?
No.
Avant?
Yes.
Callan? No. Connor?
No.
Evans?
No.
Hartage?
No.
Hodge? Jones? No. Pardon me, I'm sorry, I was so loud. I didn't hear you, Member Jones. No. Kilsheimer? Mellon? No. Perez? No. Roca?
Yes.
Semrod?
No.
Whittington?
No.
Motion fails, 13-2.
Thank you,
Madam
Thank
Clerk,
you, Madam Chair.
my name was not called, but I'd like to be registered as a no, please.
Pardon me, I am sorry.
That's okay.
You're right. I got
Member
14.
Hoover?
No.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hartage.
I think that if this map moves forward and we get it to the next meeting, that with a few changes we can make it work. It has a lot of things that the community has discussed and that various board members have discussed. I agree that District 4 numbers are way out of whack, but simply considering where we place TAF might address that. I think in our last meeting, some board members recognized that the western boundary of District 6 could move back a couple of notches. But those are things around the periphery, but it does do something that most of us have tried to do and were not able to do, and that's handle the Silver Star boundary for Pine Hills. The negatives, and I know that I've talked about this a lot tonight, but the voting power is the most important thing to me when it comes to these districts in terms of making things work. It does decrease the voting age of District 2 from 31% to 30%. It also decreased the voting population age of District 6 from 48 to 44, but it increases the voting age of the majority community, white community, from 20.59 to 23.42. But I think with a few tweaks around the edges that we can get closer to those numbers, even though those, admittedly, those are not requirements for us to pass a map. So I'm not saying we have to get those numbers perfect, but I think that there are things that we can consider. So having said that, I would vote to move the map forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartage. Mr. Mellon.
Thank you. I love this map, and it's the reason I withdrew my map. First, it doesn't significantly alter the map from current form. It keeps Eatonville solely in District 2 as well as all of Ocoee, and keeps Pine Hills relatively unchanged and unaltered. So I would definitely vote for this map. Thank you.
Thank you. Wes?
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I share Mr. Arias' concern on this map. Leaving District 4 at plus 2.25%, we cannot do in good faith in my measure, and also seeing the continued gerrymander of District 5, seeing that we've had multiple maps remove that using Colonial Drive as the boundary makes sense to me, and it should be something that we should consider. And since we are not allowed to amend these, I will have to vote no.
Thank you. Ms. King.
I appreciate this map. I especially like that it has the lowest number of people moved from the districts in which they've cast their votes already, and I think that that is a consideration that perhaps we've not paid enough attention to. And I very much appreciate the fact that it creates no new splits and doesn't move any neighborhoods entirely. It's really creates a lot of unity. It's not perfect, but I think it's a very, very good map, and I support it.
Thank you, Ms. King. Ms. Whittington.
Ms. Connor King actually captured the comments that I was going to make. In addition to being consistent with what Commissioner Hartage said in terms of the consideration for voting age population, this is something to work with, and I think that it's a really, really good map. And given next week, we'll be able to bring this back and really start to hammer this one out.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. Can I read that? Tom.
I think there's some parts of this map that are good. I do think the part that extends north of 50 needs to be eliminated. I share with that. I also share with the concerns of Commissioner Hartage. with regard to the dilution of the black population, both in District 6 and in District 2. It's significant. These maps, the dilution goes on voting age, reduced to 44.9% for District 6, and for District 2 goes down to 30.61% from almost 33%. And that was, I know in map 12, what was a concern was raised that the black voting age population went down to 46.72%, but this map reduces District 6 voting age percentage of black population down to 44.9%. So I think that's a problem with District 6. As well as District 2, it reduces it, like Commissioner Hartage, I join that concern. The percentage of black population voting age in District 6 was 31.07% in the existing, and then this goes down to 30.61%. So I share those concerns with regard to that. It seems to me the only way you can really ensure that the black population in District 6 is not overly diluted by these amendments to increase population is you have to go slightly north of Silver Star Road that was in Plan 12. And so for that reason, I'm having a problem with this map as well.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Jones, you were on and then you were off. I'm off. Okay. Kelly.
Thank you. I concur with members Hodge, Hartage, Callan, and Arias with issues regarding District 4, issues in District 5, District 6, and again, I sound like a broken record. When we're looking at the actual numbers and we see a dilution in the black vote, we know that because we have numbers, but we think of amendments that we might make. We have no numbers. So with the lack of information, I would vote no on this map. Thank you.
Thank you. Co-Chair Evans. No? Yeah, let me cycle through this. We had a little distraction time. You'll get time to close, Mayor. Tom, you're up again. Yeah, I see that.
I forgot to include also my concerns with District 4 are that if you look at the column there on the back of the page there, Hispanic population, the current population from District 4 is also reduced by one percentage vote of voting population Hispanic in District 4 as well, and overall population is reduced too as well. So because of those impacts, I think that's noteworthy about this map, and I think that's something we should consider.
Thank you. If you'll stop the clock for a second, Council.
I would like to remind the Council that racial gerrymandering is not permitted. There was a memo sent to the committee based on November 11, 2021, and there is also a handout that was created by legal to point out that maps should not be predominantly drawn or considered based on the racial population or demographics or the shifts in them between the lines. The Supreme Court has directly said that if the reason why a map is being selected over another map is race or ethnicity, then that would be considered racial gerrymandering, regardless of whether or not the map otherwise complies with the other race-neutral traditional redistricting principles. So I caution the committee to be making any decisions on maps based on race or ethnicity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrios. Kelly, we've got 6 seconds left. It's yours. Sorry? Yeah, oh, you took it off. Okay, sorry. Jimmy, we've got 6 seconds left and it's yours.
Basically, I would like at this point that the 15 minutes are up to call the question. I mean, we've all spoken well enough this time.
Yeah. The 15 minutes are up, but I want to give the mayor the courtesy of a wrap-up. Briefly, Mayor.
Very briefly, I'm open to all amendments. If there's a way to fix the percentages on District 4, I'm completely open to that. Looks like Member Alfont has the solution, and I trust him to come forward with this on Monday night. I'm going to warn all of you guys, I won't be here on Monday night. So you guys are going to be, you guys have got my blessing to tweak the map to make it better.
Thank you, Mayor. Our time is run. I will call the question. The motion on the floor was to approve an advance committee proposal 13A. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll once again? I'll remind you, please lean into your mic, turn it on. If your mic's on, please turn it off.
Thank you. Arias? Afont?
Yes.
Callan? Connor?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Hardage?
Yes.
Hodge? Hoover? Excuse me. Hoover?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kelsheimer? Mellon? Perez?
Yes.
Roca?
See.
Semrod?
No.
Whittington?
Yes.
Motion passes.
We have one map through. Hooray for us. Okay, we've got two maps remaining. I will point out to the committee and to the audience that one of our members, Jones, has bought about 20-something pizzas because we thought we were going to run longer. And at the end of the meeting, I'm going to have some, and everyone is welcome to partake. Nobody here talks about what we're doing in the meeting while we're eating together. Just want to be clear about that. Okay. Exactly. Next up is Commissioner Hardage, Redistricting Plan Proposal 16A.
I'm going to ask if I can maintain my seat because after seeing the way the votes have gone on the other maps, I'm not sure if I can stand up.
Sitting is better, Steve. Sitting is better.
I am a little bit nervous. This map, well, actually, what we've been talking about is if we had some changes to maps that we should have made them before the 29th. So I had some changes to my previous map, number 6, and I made them before the deadline on the 29th. So this is actually just a recap of some of the comments made by the community. They reference some of the comments made in letters from different communities and different conversations with commissioners and with some residents. The main difference is that it moves Eatonville partially into District 2 and partially into District 5. If this map moves forward, then I'm sure that'll be something that we can discuss. It makes an adjustment to Ocoee, places all of Ocoee into District number 2. It maintains, to the greatest extent that I can do, the current boundaries of District 6 to the west, where they are now. It does not satisfy the wishes of the Pine Hills community to keep the Silver Star boundary of District 6 and not split it. My reasoning for that, and with all due respect, is that it ensures that we have a community that's reflective of all of our populations. But I'm flexible on that change. There are not many changes in this map and my original map. District 3 boundary changes a little bit. My original map included more of the airport there, but from listening to the community, keeping that boundary as close to the existing boundary as possible was important. I have had one question about why Tildenville was kind of hooked and crooked out of there, and there are two reasons for that. One, from talking with people that about these maps, it seems to have more in common with District 2 than in District 1, but that would be something that would be up for discussion as well. But having said that, I really don't have any more comments about the map. Those are just marginal changes, and the numbers are reflective of the changes, at least the legal numbers are reflective of the changes made from District Map 1. I mean District Map 6. Those are all my comments, Mr. Chair, Mrs. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardage. We'll start.
But can I add just one thing?
Absolutely.
Just one thing. I would be kind of embarrassed if I didn't talk about the voting numbers. But on District 6, it maintains the current voting age population, and with respect to staff, I understand that that's not a criteria. so let the records reference that I understand that. But District 6 is 48.78% now. In this map, it goes to 48.63. District 2 has the greatest change. It goes from 31.07 to 27.59. But those would be the changes that I would see.
Thank you, Commissioner. If we'll get the 15 minutes, we'll start debate on the proposal 16A. I do not have a motion yet. I don't necessarily need one yet, but I don't have one yet. Jimmy Font.
Commissioner, I'm kind of confused because I have the numbers here and it says that Ocoee is still split in two. There's 7,000 somehow still in District 1 and still in District 2. I'm not sure if you're trying to tell us that you will be amicable to putting all of Ocoee in District 1 and that. I still have a problem with your division in Pine Hills. I must be honest about that. And also, I have a problem of dividing Winter Garden in between District 1 and District 2. I've always said I've had a problem. I think that Winter Garden and Oakland should stay in District 1 and not be moved. Yes, and I was the one who brought about the issue of moving 475 people because to me, it did not make any sense. Again, I think that the way we resolve the issue in my District 4 and reduce the numbers is contrary to what the census has created as Alafaya. Avonlea Park can be put in District 5. Our numbers will be significantly reduced, and that way you could do it without having to go down to the airport, because I'm not sure why we're putting the airport in a different district when nobody lives there, other than maybe that's something for Disney purposes. And yet, since Mark brought that up, I'll just follow it. Maybe it's in another area because there's no population there now. There's no population tomorrow. There's no population there either. So I do still have those issues with your map. I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Mr. Alfont. Wes?
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Commissioner Hartage, I do like this map. I don't agree that we need to move Avalon Park into District 5, seeing that this map has it at almost 3% over. I do have the concern respecting the wishes of the residents of Eatonville and their issues of commonality, and also making sure that we respect the wishes of the residents of Pine Hills with the northern border there. Also, I am concerned that District 6 is the most landlocked district and the one with the least opportunity for growth just by nature of its development currently, and it's already starting out at -1%. If there's a way that we can find a way to fix this, I think other maps have proposed that, I would be willing to support it. Thank you.
Tom Callan.
Well, next Monday, it'd be good to have two maps to go over versus just one. And so I think that there's a lot of good to this map. It has some good bones, too, as well, along with 13A and 12 can be modified. And so I make a motion we approve this map.
I'll second.
There is a motion from Mr. Callan, a second from Mr. Hodge. Was that Mr. Hodge? To approve proposed map 16A. We'll let the debate continue on that. Jason Mellon.
I agree with Wes on this one. I would add, though, that District 2 had a negative going in of like, what, at 9%? And we're already starting off here at a -1.89. So I think that puts District 2 at a pretty big disadvantage if we were looking at future growth. Also, the question with Ocoee, 7,000 people are still in District 1 on this map. Also, Winter Garden, moving 24,000 people, which have always been in District 1, and moving them into District 2. I think Winter Garden, and especially the downtown Lake area, have always been District 1, and I don't think they share a commonality with, let's say, Ocoee, as they do with the Apopka. And those are my only complaints with this map.
Thank you. Co-Chair Evans.
I want to thank Commissioner Hartage for both for proposals 6 and 16A. You went back and sharpened your pencil, and I appreciate that. I think that 16A still has a number of things that proposal 13A already solved, although I again still think there are issues with 13A that we need to solve between 3 and 4. But for that reason, I don't think that 16A needs to move forward. I think that we have enough other strong maps that solve and address the concerns from the residents that we've heard thus far. So I won't be supporting 16A, but I do appreciate the work of Commissioner Hardage.
Thank you, Co-Chair Evans. I have no other speakers on the motion. Are there any other speakers? Well, if there's no other speakers, I'm going to call the question. Jimmy, thank you. We'll call the question. Clerk, will you please take a roll?
Arias?
Clarify the question, please.
No, we've run out of speakers, Joe, so I went ahead and called the question. No, I appreciate that.
So
Thank
what's the
you.
question?
So it is on the motion to advance Provisional Committee Proposal 16A. Yes.
Affont?
No.
Callan? Connor?
No.
Was that a no, please? I couldn't out hear you.
No.
Evans?
No.
Hardage?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Hoover?
No.
Jones?
No.
Kilsheimer? No. Mellon? No. Perez?
Yes.
Roca? No. Semrod? No. Whittington?
No.
Motion to move forward has failed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner Hardage.
Mr. Chair, question.
Last up, Member Zach Hoover, Redistricting Plan Proposal 17A.
I have a question.
Who was that?
Julio.
Sorry, Julio. Yeah.
So we had one map through.
Yes.
We have one map to go.
Yes.
Should we stop to have two maps to have a conversation next week?
I don't know that we need to do that. I want to give every map a hearing.
Okay.
And if we don't move it forward, then we'll look at one map on Monday, and we'll
Call it a day.
essentially be done with our work.
Thank you.
Zach.
Thank you. This is a map that I had come in thinking I might withdraw if it didn't, if a couple of the other maps that I liked move forward, but given that it's our only one of two potential options left, I'll go ahead and present it. This is kind of an amendment to an earlier proposal I had made that was seeking to shift boundaries as little as possible. There's not much of a change from that, except that I had taken into consideration when I first proposed that map, it was very, very early on in the process, and I thought we were trying to keep all census-designated areas together to the greatest extent possible. That was before we heard some input from the community, and I think if we were to rank the top 10 communities that came and spoke to us, the first about 5 would be the Pine Hills community. So I wanted to take that into consideration with this amended map. As we discussed earlier this week, this map has Eatonville in District 5 as opposed to District 2. I think it would be relatively easy to move it if this map moved forward. It's 2,300 people and wouldn't throw the numbers off too much. In addition, I think I take some of the comments from Member Hodge to heart earlier when he said that by splitting Winter Garden and not splitting Ocoee, we were potentially raising the residents of Ocoee's interest over the residents of Winter Garden. That's something I would take into consideration if we needed to move the border of District 1 north a little bit. And I think my biggest problem with this map is the percentage deviation, the negative deviation in District 6, which I think potentially that district does already include a bit of Metro West. Maybe that border could be shifted around a little bit, or I think the border could be dropped down in the southeastern part of the district in between South Young Parkway and South Orange Blossom Trail, as some of the other maps have done. I think that wraps up my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover. We will start 15 minutes discussion on this map. Mark Arias, you're first up.
So, Mr. Hoover, thank you for the For the map, sorry. Thank you for the map. I can't see a decrease in population, voting population for District 6 or for District 3. You got 6 at negative 1.38. You got 3 at negative 0.2. Once again, my concern is growth in the other 4 counties, 6 and 3 being landlocked. There's really no other place for them to go, and to decrease their population at this point, considering future growth, I think is problematic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Wes.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Again, echoing my concerns about Eatonville and District 5, and also echoing Mr. Arias' concerns. But if we're down to 2 maps to move forward, then I would support moving this forward.
I have no other speakers. Was it that I announced that there was pizza in the... Oh, I'm sorry, there's Co-Chair Evans.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez, and I apologize for interrupting the thought between us and pizza. So I like map 17A. I don't like it better than map 13A. I think that the number of fixes that would be required to bring 17A into a more ideal posture would be unduly placing on our staff and our team and ourselves and the community the need to do double work on 2 maps. Having said that, and given the similarities in 13 and 17, my suggestion is that we move with 13, that we reject 17A and focus our efforts on 13A on our following meeting. So for that reason, I won't be supporting proposal 17A, but I do appreciate the work that Member Hoover did.
Jimmy.
I have a problem, and I've mentioned it here before, and I'm going to mention it again. I understand that people want to use Colonial Drive as a dividing point, and I understand that I have always proposed that Winter Garden and Oakland stay in District 1. They're the head of District 1. Basically, they're the largest cities together in District 1. I don't have a problem putting Ocoee all in there. We know Ocoee wants to be in District 2, and we know that Winter Garden doesn't want to be in District 2. That's one of my problems I have with this map, is splitting up Winter Garden now. I'm going to make this with a caveat. If it would be possible to keep Winter Garden in Oakland in District 1, that could be something we could discuss. But splitting up just because we're using Colonial Drive, in District 5, we have Union Park split up because somebody still wants to use Colonial Drive. And just to give you an example, Union Park Middle is on the north side of Colonial, and Union Park Elementary is on the south side of Colonial, and you can walk from one to the other. They're in less than a quarter of a mile distance. They're both in the same neighborhood, but because somebody decided to use Colonial Drive because it was practical, you split up Union Park. I have never been for that, so if that's something you might want to consider, I just wanted to bring that up as something, okay?
Can I clarify with a quick response?
Certainly. Thank you, Jimmy. Go ahead, Jace. Zach.
I appreciate that. I don't like splitting up Winter Garden. I think the numbers are difficult there. But in this map, I specifically moved the line of the northern border on District 1 a couple of blocks north of Colonial Drive to keep that sort of commercial district together as it goes through District 1. It does look in the map that's right here like it's along Colonial Drive, but it is a couple of blocks north of there. That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think also that this map has some good structure that we can work with. It's not very much different from 13A. It needs to fix around Edenville, but I think my map needed the same. The numbers are a little bit off, but I'm going to support this map. I think we can fix it with amendments.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no more speakers on this map. Does anybody wish to speak? Zach, do you wish to summarize it all?
No, thank you.
In that case, I will call the question on the map. Madam Clerk, would you please take a roll? Is the
Sir,
motion
I
on?
don't
We
show a
have
motion on the tape on
Thank
the
you,
floor.
Joe. First one, we don't have a motion on.
I'd like to move a motion that we approve.
All right, Commissioner Hart has started first. I'll take his motion to move it forward. Julio, I'm going to take you as a seconder. Thank you. There's a motion and a second to move this forward. Now we're calling the question. Mayor Kilsheimer, thank you for keeping me honest on that one.
Arias? Afont? Callan? Yes. Connor?
Yes.
Evans?
No.
Hardage?
Yes.
Hodge? Yes. Hoover? Yes. Jones? No. Kilsheimer? No. Mellon? No. Perez? No. Roca? No. Semerad? No. Whittington?
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay, Zach, thank you
Mr. Chair, I have a motion.
for your map. I'm sorry, was that Wes?
Yes.
Wes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider map 12. If I can get a second, I will indulge you for a moment.
Second.
Point of order,
that Kelly?
doesn't the person that brings that back have to be on the winning side of the vote?
And that's why he changed his vote earlier on.
Ah.
As soon as he did that, I knew that was coming. So, so we have a motion from Mr. Hodge and a second from Ms. Simrat to reconsider map 12 proposed by Mr. Hodge. We'll take discussion on the motion.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Please.
Thank you. We've had multiple people here tonight come specifically seeing map 12A as amended and wanting to see it move forward. I think it would be a disservice to this community to not have the legal team review this, since we did try to move forward with 3 maps, and at this point we're only moving forward with 1. I would seriously ask that we allow the legal team the option to review map 12 and bring it back forward with the full legal review as amended so that we can take a look at it. Thank you.
Second.
Co-Chair Evans.
I think this is a very bad idea, personally. I think that if we're going to take the approach to the entire process and say we are not going to consider amendments to the winning process, and then turn around and say, legal, you need to do the analysis based on something the committee has rejected. We have sat here tonight at almost 4 hours in, and I think that we've heard from the community, we've heard from the members of this body, and with all due respect, I think the most efficient and appropriate approach is to move forward with what has been approved here tonight and allow the community and our membership and our staff and legal to prepare us for our proper public hearing on Monday. So I strongly think that's not a good idea.
Julio Roca.
I echo the comments of our co-chair. We tried every map. We had a process. We voted. If we were to allow this, I'm going to be in favor of doing the same with everybody. So I believe we have done our work. It is good work. We have a good map. Majority voted in favor of the map. I think our work is done for tonight.
Commissioner Hardage.
Yeah, while I may agree with some of the comments that were made, Board Member Hodges is well within his rights from Robert's Rules of points of order. He can do that if he chooses because he was on the opposing side. Now, it's up to us to vote yea or nay, but we can't deny him a vote on it. It's a properly made motion. It's properly second, and we have no choice but to vote on it.
Mark.
We can ask legal if that's appropriate, but I don't see how.
No, Homer, no one has said not to vote on it.
Okay.
They're just saying they're going to vote no on it, but they haven't said they're not going to vote on it.
I actually have a question for Madam Clerk. At the last roll call, what were the amount in favor and the amount in against?
The motion to reject passed 9-6.
I'd like to change my vote. I prefer that map to pass. I think it's a mistake to move forward with just one map at this moment.
I think, well, we'll still be at 8-7, and
I know.
yeah. So
For the record.
And for the record, we can't go back and change votes because it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. I just don't want to go there. Kelly, the discussion is on the motion to reconsider.
Yes.
Yeah.
In response to Member Hodges' comment, the last time when he presented, we went through a series of amendments, and he was amenable to those amendments, but then we never saw the legal analysis for all of those amendments. And so when we talked about previously that we should have submitted, new maps by 11/29, part of the process that we did in here was to discuss amenable amendments with no further action. And I think that demonstrates, again, another flaw within our process, is that if we were talking about amendments and being amenable and what are we going to do, and yes, I would make that amendment, then we should have seen the data to support that. So there's an issue. Our goal was to have 3 maps. Now we only have 1 map. So I would support the notion to reconsider this map. I think it benefits the community. I think it benefits the committee to have more than 1 map to consider.
Thank you, Ms. Simrod. I will point out once again that there is no way to have the legal data from an amendment made tonight, but I understand your point.
There is with an extension of time, and I know that's not a popular answer, but more meetings provide more time to have a legal analysis done.
And that would provide more possible amendments, and then it is never ending. We've had that conversation. Tom?
Proposal 13A has a lot of good qualities to it, but it has a deviation of 3.7%. District 1 is minus 1.44. District 4 is plus 2.25. Proposal 12 has a maximum deviation of only 1.03%. So we all know what's going to happen if we have 1 map next week. We're going to map substantially, change, amend 13A. Else the board ain't going to go along with it. And so I think we should have 2 proposals going to the next board, because we can easily make Proposal 12 address the concerns raised by members of the commission if we do that. I think the next week we may even want, I'm going to present this next week, that if whatever we propose, we also provide a list of alternative amendments they can make to our map. And so that we give the board not just 1 map, but we say, here's the map we approved, but here's some other things you can consider, because you're going to do it anyway. And here's our thoughts on that. So I think for purposes of going forward, we should have 2 maps. The deviation of map 13A and the 2.52% on map 4 really renders that map has to be amended next week. And so the fact that we were talking about we can't have amendments, I think is false. We're going to have amendments next week. Question is it 1 map or 2 maps? I think we should have 2 maps. And I would support the motion for reconsideration.
Thank you, Tom. We have 4 minutes left in our regular rules. We said 3.5-hour meetings. I am certainly willing to extend a little longer to make it through the meeting. I just wanted to let everyone know that we have 4 minutes left in our regularly scheduled meeting. Jimmy?
I think, and maybe I'm confused, I was told by most of you here that I could bring my amendments on Monday. Wes, if you have amendments to map 13A, bring them, like everybody else could bring them. But trying to say, let's do this so I could have 2 maps, I would prefer, and Ms. Wellington pointed out to me correctly, that on Monday we could bring amendments. And that's what I think you should try to do here. Is if you think there's things that you want to change to 13A and that you think are important, bring them on Monday and we could discuss them like any other amendment. But bringing this map back on a procedural matter at the last moment, with all due respect, I'm kind of concerned about. you could bring any amendments you want on Monday. On Monday, we're going to discuss 13A to excruciating point that I think everybody here is going to have some proposed changes, and you could propose your changes on Monday on 13A. But having to go through 2 maps on Monday when we have already decided we would prefer to do it with 1, it's kind of difficult for me. So with that, I would vote against your reconsideration. Thank you.
Co-Chair Evans and I have agreed to extend the meeting 10 more minutes. It's now 2 minutes to 10 to 10:10. Julio Roca.
Echo the comments from my fellow committee member, Jimmy Afont. Every map went through the process. This map didn't pass. We have 1 map that passed. Again, it looks bad to change the vote with the intention of bringing this back. This stuff is recorded. This stuff is going to be seen by people. Wes, your map was defeated. You got kicked out. Let's make sure we follow the process and move on.
Commissioner Hardage.
Yeah, I support Board Member Hodges' motion to bring it forward, but even though I will vote against the motion, but I support his right to bring it forward. I think the map 13A is a decent proposal. It has many of the things that I support. If it comes back on, when it comes back on next Monday, there are some changes that I'll try to put back in based on my original map 6, which I think was actually my best map. But I think that we've done the best we can. And there's nothing wrong with having 1 map. It actually makes our process more efficient.
It does
for
indeed.
Next week.
Kelly?
I have a concern regarding Monday. So we will be in the same boat that we are tonight, where we bring amendments on Monday, and we have no legal analysis to interpret what those amendments mean in terms of numbers, statistics, representation, etc. It's the same boat.
As hesitant as I am to say this, we have Thursday scheduled, and if we make amendments on Monday to 1 map, those amendments can have legal analysis by Thursday, and we'll have all of the transparency and clarity you seek.
Right, and so let's say we get to Thursday and we have a legal analysis for only 1 map and it doesn't pass. The committee has nothing to forward to the BCC. I recommend that we have 2 maps.
The likelihood of that is not strong, but I certainly understand your position.
One point of clarification, for the legal consideration of the committee to be past the legal threshold to go to the Board of County Commissioners, it needs 2 things, both of which are tracked in the software that we will know as of making the maps when GIS is making the maps. The first is that it meets the 1-person 1-vote threshold of being under 10% maximum deviation, and the second is that the districts are contiguous. Those are the only 2 requirements for legal threshold for consideration and approval of the map by the committee.
Thank you for that clarification. So it should not be an issue, Kelly.
It could be an issue. So it should not yes, it should not, but it is probable that it could be, and therefore it benefits us in this process to have 2 maps. So we had a problem with this process from the beginning when we operated from the suggested memo of the winnowing process. I mean, there has been a problem all night, and the problem will continue on Monday with amendments being made without sufficient information to review.
I understand your concern. Co-Chair Evans.
Thank you, Co-Chair Perez. I just want to make the point that the winnowing process mentioned the concept of getting down to 3 maps, but that was if we were in a position where we had more than 3 maps, because the idea was to create a process that actually reduced the amount of variables that members of the public and members of this body needed to consider as we get down to our final work product. So I want to echo or repeat the fact that being down to one map for consideration is not a failure of this body. To me, it means that we've identified specifically the issues that members of our community and this committee have brought forward throughout these last several weeks, and we've identified the map that most closely gets us to addressing those concerns and then giving us the opportunity to make whatever changes that are proposed. Member Simrod's concerns around amendments is the nature of this process, period, and it's unavoidable. So I like to first applaud us for getting to where we are, and I'd like us to move forward with closing this meeting, but I know we have to address this motion.
Wes.
I just wanted to lock in to call the question, please.
Okay. Is there an objection to, is there a second to the motion? Second. Is there an objection to calling the question?
I object to call the question.
Of course you do. You want to keep talking? You're not listed.
No, we already called the question. The vote was taken. The map was defeated.
No, but there's a motion and a second on the reconsideration. We have to call the question to decide if we're going to reconsider the map.
Oh, that's what we're talking about. I retract my comment. I'm sorry it's late.
Just for the record, all in favor. Sorry, it turns off at 10. I don't. All in favor of calling the. Thank you, Jimmy. All in favor of calling the question on motion to reconsider, please say aye. And opposed? Okay, the question has been called. All in favor of the vote on the main motion, which is the reconsideration of map number 12. Clerk, would you please call the roll? Yes is we want to reconsider map number 12. No is we do not want to reconsider map number 12. Thank you, Gary. Clerk, please.
Arias? Yes. Avant? No. Callan?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Evans?
No.
Hartage?
No.
Hodge? Hoover? Jones? No. Kilsheimer? Mellon? No. Perez? No. Roca? No. Semrod? Yes. Whittington?
No.
Fails. The motion to reconsider has failed.
The motion fails. Thank you, Mr. Hodge. That's not an indulgence. That's certainly your right. Okay. Thank you for your indulgence. That's fine. Okay. A couple of things. Well, first, I'll sum up, but let me go to my co-chair, Evans, for any thoughts leading into Monday's meeting.
First and foremost, I want to thank those of you who have stayed with us throughout this night. This is, yes. I also want to acknowledge the record number of public comments we had tonight through this process. I look forward to an equal or greater amount on Monday. We have a number of very important details to button up. I acknowledge that we would all love this process to be perfect and super smooth, but you cannot draw lines through this much land with 1.4 million people being affected, and it just runs smoothly. It doesn't. So thank you for your participation. I want to thank my committee members who took the time to make maps. Even if your map was not finally considered, the effort put into that process is significant. So I want to thank you all as well. I look forward to us moving forward. And I also would like to remind everybody, and I think Tom made a great point, the recommendations of this body are not required to be adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. So be mindful that even as we complete our process, while we will definitely have, I hope, something we strongly recommend to them, be mindful that the process continues at the Board of County Commissioners level once we complete our work here. But thank you, Tico, for co-chairing, for chairing tonight and being so phenomenal and patient.
Well, I got to wrap up. let me wrap, for goodness sakes. Thank you all for a bumpy meeting at the start. I think we got through the awkwardness, and I think we got to a good result. I'm excited to have one map to talk around, kick around, and do some good work with, and perhaps finish our work. Perhaps not on Monday night, but you guys have been great. You've been very congenial. As we have pizza, I will remind you we cannot talk about this process while we're having pizza because I'm adjourning the meeting before we do that. But our next meeting is here next Monday at 6:30. Everyone have a great weekend, and hopefully next week won't be quite as long as this week. Thank you all. We're adjourned.